Welcome, friends, to a special kind of journey tonight. If you're here, maybe you're winding down after a long day, slipping under the covers, or just seeking a peaceful escape into a world that's been a beloved companion for so many of us. I'm talking about Pokémon, the colourful, adventurous universe that's captured hearts since the late 90s. Whether you grew up trading cards on the playground, battling with your Game Boy, or simply watching those epic anime episodes, there's something magical about Pokémon that feels like home. And tonight, we're turning that magic into the perfect lullaby. 3 hours of gentle, fascinating Pokémon facts, shared in a soft, soothing way to help you drift off to sleep. But before we go any further, if you're enjoying this vibe, remember to check out our full Pokémon for Sleep playlist, linked in the description. It's filled with calming tracks you can bookmark and return to whenever you want to unwind or drift off. And if you'd like to thank us for the relaxing content, a quick like and subscribe is the easiest free way to support the channel and help the algorithm share our videos with more people. Now, let's continue our journey together. Picture this, the soft glow of your screen dimming as you let your mind wander through regions like Kanto, Johto, and beyond. No high-stakes battles here, no intense rivalries, just calm explorations of the little-known stories, quirky details, and hidden gems that make Pokémon so endlessly enchanting. We'll meander through the lore of legendary creatures, the inspirations behind your favourite pocket monsters, and the evolution of the franchise itself, all delivered in a relaxed rhythm, like a bedtime story from an old friend. If you're new to Pokémon, no worries, this is for everyone. And if you're a die-hard fan, you might discover something fresh to dream about tonight. Why Pokémon for sleep? Well, think about it. These creatures aren't just fighters, they're companions, each with their own personality, habitat, and backstory. Pikachu's cheerful spark, Charizard's majestic wings, or the serene glow of a Jigglypuff's lullaby, they evoke a sense of wonder and tranquility. Studies even show that familiar, nostalgic content can reduce stress and promote better rest. And Pokémon has that power in spades. It's a world built on friendship, growth, and discovery, mirroring the quiet adventures we all take in our dreams. So, settle in, adjust your pillow, maybe grab a cozy blanket, and let me guide you through this extended relaxation session. We'll keep the pace slow, the tone warm, and the facts flowing like a gentle stream, so you can tune in or tune out as sleep calls. To start our journey, let's ease into the origins of it all. Pokémon, or Pocket Monsters, was born from the mind of Satoshi Tajiri in Japan during the 1980s. Tajiri grew up in a rural area, collecting insects as a kid, a passion that directly inspired the idea of catching and training creatures. In a world where kids in cities rarely saw bugs anymore, he wanted to share that thrill of exploration. The first games, Pokémon Red and Green, launched in 1996 for the Game Boy, and they revolutionized gaming with their interconnected worlds. You see, the games encouraged trading between players, fostering real friendships across distances. Imagine, 2 kids linking their Game Boys with a cable, hearts racing as a rare Pokémon swaps hands. That sense of connection, it's the heartbeat of the franchise, and tonight we'll uncover how it all began. As we drift deeper, consider the very first Pokémon you encounter in those classic games, Bulbasaur. This little grass-type starter isn't just cute, it's rooted in nature's resilience. Bulbasaur's bulb on its back is like a seed pod, drawing from real plants like the Titanarum, but twisted into something fantastical. Did you know that Bulbasaur evolves into Ivysaur and then Venusaur, whose flower blooms during battles? It's a nod to how plants thrive under pressure, much like how we grow through challenges. And speaking of evolutions, the process in Pokémon mirrors real-life metamorphosis. Caterpillars to butterflies, tadpoles to frogs, but with a twist of magic. Eevee, for instance, has 8 different evolutions, each triggered by stones or conditions, symbolizing adaptability. In a changing world, isn't that a comforting thought? Eevee's family tree is like life's many paths, all leading to something beautiful. Now let's wander into the world of legendaries, those mythical beings that guard the balance of the Pokémon universe. Take Articuno, the ice bird of the seas. Inspired by South American folklore and the albatross, Articuno's icy wings can freeze oceans in an instant, but in our telling, it's a serene guardian, gliding silently over frozen tundras under the moonlight. Or Zapdos, the electric eagle, drawing from thunderbirds of Native American myths. Its storms aren't destructive here, but a natural symphony lulling the night. And Moltres, the fire phoenix, reborn from its own flames, reminding us of renewal. These aren't just powerhouses, they're symbols of nature's harmony, perfect for contemplating as your eyelids grow heavy, shifting gently to the human side, or should I say, trainer side. Let's talk about Professor Oak. Voiced by that iconic wise tone in the anime, Oak isn't just a researcher, he's based on real biologists like Charles Darwin, cataloguing species in his vast lab. His Pokédex, that indispensable device, has scanned over 1,000 Pokémon across generations, each entry a snippet of lore. Fun fact, the Pokédex's design evolved from a simple encyclopedia to a high-tech gadget, but its purpose remains to understand and appreciate the diversity of life. If you're feeling reflective tonight, ponder how trainers like Ash Ketchum embody perseverance. Ash's journey spans decades in real time, from a 10-year-old starter to a timeless hero, teaching us that growth never stops, even in dreams. As we continue this relaxed ramble, let's touch on the music that scores these adventures. The Pokémon soundtrack, composed by Junichi Masuda and others, uses simple melodies with chiptune vibes that evoke nostalgia and calm. That opening theme, it's engineered to stick in your head, but in a soothing way, like a familiar hymn. Tracks like the Lavender Town theme, often misunderstood as eerie, actually draw from Japanese funeral music, but blend it with hopeful notes, turning sorrow into serenity. Listening to it now in your mind, doesn't it feel like a soft veil over the world, inviting rest? Diving into some quirky evolutions, have you ever wondered about Ditto? This pink blob can transform into any Pokémon it sees, but only up to a certain size, a limitation that adds humility to its powers. Ditto's origins tie into mimicry in nature, like octopuses changing shape to survive. It's a reminder that flexibility is key, and in sleep we all transform, shedding the day's worries. Or consider Magnemite, the floating magnet Pokémon. Inspired by real electromagnetic phenomena, it hovers without effort, a symbol of effortless motion. In the games, Magnemite evolves into Magnezone through exposure to energy, much like how ideas spark and grow in quiet moments. Let's meander to the regions themselves. Kanto, the starting point, is modelled after Japan's Kanto region, with cities like Saffron echoing Tokyo's bustle. But in Pokémon, it's all scaled down to explorable wonder. Pallet Town, your humble beginning, means steam tray in Japanese, evoking fresh starts like a warm meal. Then there's Johto, inspired by the Kansai area, with its traditional temples and misty lakes. Goldenrod City buzzes with life, home to the radio tower that broadcasts tips to trainers. A clever way to guide players without hand-holding. Each region builds on the last, layer by layer, like dreams stacking upon one another. Speaking of water worlds, the Hoenn region from Ruby and Sapphire introduces diving mechanics, letting you explore underwater realms, teeming with Pokémon like Clample and Huntail. These deep-sea dwellers draw from abyssal creatures, bioluminescent and mysterious, perfect for imagining submerged adventures as you float into sleep. And the weather system there, dynamic and immersive, with rain nourishing grass types or hail challenging ice ones, nature's balance in pixel form. Now for a touch of anime magic, the voice actors bring these characters to life with such warmth. Pikachu's Pika-P isn't random, it's voiced by Ike Otani, who captures every emotion from joy to determination. In the English dub, the late Rachel Lillis gave Misty and Jessie their spunky charm, making rivalries feel like playful banter. These performances turn facts into feelings, and tonight, let them wash over you like a gentle wave. As we ease toward the heart of Pokémon's philosophy, remember the motto, gotta catch 'em all. But it's not about hoarding, it's about collection as appreciation, like a museum of living art. Over 1,000 species now, from the tiny Joltik to the colossal Wailord. Each one has stats, types and moves that interplay in battles, but beyond that, they're ecosystems unto themselves. Fire types like Chimchar, with its flaming rear like a lit match, evolve into fiery monkeys, symbolizing youthful energy tamed. Let's linger on ghost types for a moment, often spooky but deeply poignant. Gengar, the shadow Pokémon, is said to be the spirit of a mischievous ghastly, evolving through friendship. Even ghosts need bonds. Inspired by yokai from Japanese folklore, like the grinning Oni, Gengar lurks in shadows, but can also be a playful companion. In the dead of night, its presence feels less frightening, more like a watchful friend, ensuring sweet dreams. Venturing into Gen 5's Unova region, we meet Reshiram and Zekrom, dragon legends representing truth and ideals. Their black and white designs echo yin-yang duality, a philosophical core to the story. Unova, based on New York, contrasts urban sprawl with rural peace, teaching that harmony lies in balance. Pokémon black and white games delve into themes of change, with N, the antagonist turned friend, questioning the cycle of capture, provoking thoughts on ethics that linger softly in the mind. For some lighter trivia, did you know Clefairy was originally considered the mascot over Pikachu? Its moon-waving dances and meteorite ties make it a celestial being, perfect for stargazing sleep. Or Snorlax, the ultimate napper. Its Pokédex entry says it sleeps 20 hours a day, blocking paths until fed. Who hasn't felt like Snorlax after a big meal, ready to hibernate? As we approach the 2-hour mark in our imaginary flow, though time blurs in relaxation, let's touch on shiny Pokémon. Those rare, colour-swapped variants with a 1 in 4,096 chance in the wild sparkle like hidden treasures. Hunting them is a patient pursuit, mirroring the calm of waiting for sleep to come. In lore, they're not different species, just unique individuals celebrating diversity. The competitive scene adds depth too, with types like Steel resisting many attacks, born from metallurgy. But tonight, no strategies, just appreciation for how rock, paper, scissors logic makes every matchup a puzzle, solvable in dreams. Finally, as we tee up the deeper dives ahead, know that Pokémon's legacy is one of joy and respite. From manga to merchandise, it's a tapestry woven with care. So breathe deep, let these facts swirl like Pokeballs in the air, and allow yourself to journey onward. Whether you stay awake for all 3 hours or nod off after the first region, this is your peaceful Pokémon paradise. Rest well, trainer. Adventure awaits in your dreams. The birth of a phenomenon. In the bustling yet fading rural landscapes of 1990s Japan, a young boy named Satoshi Tajiri spent his days flipping rocks and peering under leaves, his hands sticky with the thrill of capturing rare insects. This wasn't just play, it was an obsession that would one day birth an entire universe. What if I told you that the Pokémon we know and love today started not in a high-tech lab or a corporate boardroom, but in the dirt paths of Machida, where the air hummed with cicadas and the ground teemed with hidden treasures? That's the story we're uncovering tonight, the quiet spark that ignited a phenomenon still captivating hearts decades later. Picture yourself there for a moment, though you don't need to close your eyes. Tajiri, born in 1965, grew up in an era when Japan's countryside was a playground for explorers like him. Back then, the urban sprawl hadn't yet swallowed everything. He and his friends would venture into forests and stream beds, nets in hand, chasing after beetles, butterflies, and stag beetles that seemed almost mythical in their iridescence. You'd feel the excitement building as you spotted a shimmering prize, the rush of pinning it carefully in a collection box, trading duplicates with buddies to complete your set. For Tajiri, bug collecting wasn't a phase. It was a lifeline, a way to connect with nature in a world that felt increasingly distant and concrete. But here's where the real magic begins to unfold. As Tajiri entered his teens and 20s, Japan was transforming at breakneck speed. The economic miracle of the post-war years brought skyscrapers, bullet trains, and endless factories, turning those childhood forests into parking lots. You can almost sense the loss he felt, that pang of watching his beloved hunting grounds vanish under asphalt. Yet, instead of letting go, Tajiri held on tighter. He started a fanzine in the 1980s called Game Freak, not about bugs, but about video games, blending his passions. He reviewed arcade cabinets and early consoles, dreaming up ways to capture that same sense of discovery in pixels. And then along came the Game Boy. Released in 1989 by Nintendo, the Game Boy was a pocket-sized wonder, its green-tinted screen glowing like a captured firefly. Tajiri got his hands on one, and it changed everything. You know those moments when a simple gadget unlocks a flood of ideas? For him, it was the link cable that hooked him deepest. This unassuming cord let two Game Boys connect, allowing players to trade items or battle head-to-head. Imagine plugging in with a friend, your characters duking it out in real time, or swapping high scores like trading rare specimens. Tajiri saw it instantly. What if you could do the same with creatures? Not just any creatures, but digital versions of those bugs he'd chased as a kid, evolving, battling, and trading across invisible lines. It was a eureka moment, born from nostalgia and innovation colliding. No more solitary collecting. This would build communities, friendships forged through shared hunts in a virtual wild. That vision simmered for years. Tajiri, now in his late 20s, poured his energy into Game Freak, turning it from a newsletter into a fledgling development studio. He partnered with Ken Sugimori, an artist whose sketches brought Tajiri's ideas to life with vibrant, expressive designs. But funding was tight, ideas were raw. They toyed with concepts like capturing monsters in balls, training them to grow stronger, much like nurturing a beetle from larva to majestic adult. You can hear the echo of Tajiri's childhood in every detail. The satisfaction of a well-executed catch, the strategy of pitting your best against a rival's. By 1996, after countless prototypes and near bankruptcies, they had something solid. A game called Pocket Monsters, or Pokémon for short, designed exclusively for the Game Boy. Now let's dig into what made those first Pokémon so special. The original roster numbered exactly 151, a deliberate choice to create a finite, collectible world without overwhelming the tech of the time. Each one drew from the real world and beyond, blending the familiar with the fantastical. Take Bulbasaur, the grass-type starter. Its bulb back evokes the hardy plants Tajiri might have seen pushing through urban cracks, inspired by frogs and seeds that burst into life. Or Pikachu, that electric mouse with cheeks like thunderclouds, pulling from the squirrels and rodents scampering in Japanese parks, but amped up with a jolt of personality that makes you smile just thinking about it. You won't believe how deeply rooted these designs are in nature's oddities. There's Pinsir, the fierce stag beetle Pokémon, a direct nod to the massive Lucana Cervus that Tajiri hunted, its pincers ready to clamp down in battle. Venonat, with its fuzzy body and compound eyes, mirrors the moth-like caterpillars he collected, evolving into Venomoth like a butterfly emerging from a cocoon. And don't get me started on the bird Pokémon. Pidgey flits about like a common sparrow, but grows into the regal Pidgeot, soaring on winds that whisper of eagles from ancient tales. Tajiri and his team scoured encyclopedias and folklore for inspiration, weaving in elements from Japanese mythology too. Legendaries like Articuno, the ice bird, echo the Yuki-onna spirits of snowy legends, while Zapdos crackles with the fury of thunder gods from Shinto stories. But it wasn't just about looks. Each Pokémon had a role, a type system that mimicked rock, paper, scissors with elemental flair. Fire beats grass, water douses fire, and so on, turning battles into thoughtful puzzles rather than mindless button mashing. You'd strategize your team, much like planning a bug hunt. Bring the right tools for the terrain, anticipate what your opponent might unleash. The trading via link cable, it was revolutionary. Friends could swap a Charmander for a Squirtle, building collections that spanned the globe, even if you were just in the next room. This feature alone turned solitary play into a social glue, fostering rivalries and alliances that felt as real as those childhood trades under the summer sun. As development wrapped, the team faced skepticism. Nintendo executives wondered if kids would care about virtual bugs in a market dominated by shooters and platformers. But Tajiri believed in the core loop: explore, capture, train, battle, repeat. It mirrored life itself, that endless cycle of growth and challenge. Released on February 27, 1996, in Japan as Pokémon Red and Green, it didn't explode overnight. Sales started steady, not spectacular, about 300,000 copies in the first few months. Yet word spread through schoolyards and gaming magazines, kids linking up their Game Boys during recess, eyes wide with the thrill of a rare trade. You can almost hear the playground chatter. Got a Charizard, trade you my Eevee. What elevated it from game to phenomenon was the synergy. Soon after, the anime launched, with Ash Ketchum's journey mirroring every player's dreams. Trading cards followed, each foil-stamped beauty a pocket-sized collectible. But at its heart, it all traced back to that rural boy and his bugs, digitized into a world where anyone could be a trainer. The 151 Pokémon weren't just numbers, they were a menagerie of possibilities. Consider the evolutions. Caterpie to Metapod to Butterfree. A transformation that tugs at your heart, reminding you of fleeting childhood wonders. Or the fossils, like Omanite, revived from ancient shells, blending paleontology with fantasy in a way that sparks endless curiosity. Diving deeper, each Pokémon carried subtle cultural nods. The Kanto region, where it all begins, is a love letter to Eastern Japan, with towns named after real places. Tokiwa City for Machida, Tajiri's hometown. Gym leaders embodied archetypes: Brock the rock-solid gym rat, Misty the fiery water enthusiast. And the Elite Four, a gauntlet of masters that tested your bonds with your team, much like facing a rival collector in the wild. You felt the weight of every decision: evolve now or wait, trade for power or keep the sentimental favourite. It was emotional, strategic, alive. As the game gained traction, something unexpected happened. It crossed borders. Exported as Pokémon Red and Blue in 1998, it hit the West like a thunderbolt, selling millions and spawning sleepovers filled with link cable marathons. Parents puzzled over why their kids were so obsessed. But you get it. The joy of discovery, the camaraderie of sharing. Tajiri's humble origins had created a bridge from solitary bug hunts to global connections. Yet, for all its success, the story behind the man who dreamed it up holds even more layers. How did one person's nostalgia reshape entertainment forever? That brings us to the heart of it all. Up next, in Chapter 2, Satoshi Tajiri's Vision, we'll peel back the curtain on the mind that turned personal loss into lasting legacy, revealing the intimate struggles and breakthroughs that made Pokémon more than a game. It became a movement. You won't want to miss how his story unfolds. Satoshi Tajiri's Vision. Did you know that the man behind Pokémon Satoshi Tajiri, grew up in a quiet rural town in Japan where his greatest adventures weren't in video games, but in the wild outdoors, chasing after insects with a net in hand. That's right, long before Pokeballs became a global obsession, Tajiri was a young boy in the 1960s and 70s, living in Machida, a place surrounded by forests and fields that were slowly giving way to urban sprawl. You can almost hear the rustle of leaves and the buzz of wings as he spent his days exploring, collecting beetles, butterflies, and all sorts of creepy crawlies. It wasn't just a hobby for him, it was a passion that shaped his entire worldview. In those innocent hours, he'd trade bugs with friends, marvel at their unique patterns and behaviours, and dream up ways to capture and care for them without harm. That sense of wonder, that thrill of discovery, planted the seeds for what would become the Pokémon universe. But how does a bug-obsessed kid turn into a game design legend? Let's walk through his story together, step by step, because it's a tale of persistence that might just inspire you as you listen. In your mind's ear, Tajiri, around 10 years old, trekking through the underbrush near his home. The air is thick with the scent of earth after a rain, and he's got his eyes peeled for a rare rhinoceros beetle, those massive armoured insects that locals prized like treasures. Back then, Japan was booming with post-war reconstruction, and rural areas like his were dotted with construction sites and new roads snaking through the greenery. Tajiri noticed how these changes were driving away the bugs he loved, fragmenting their habitats just like cities fragment communities. It bothered him deeply, this loss of something magical and free. He started keeping detailed notes in notebooks, sketching the insects, logging where he'd find them, and even inventing little games with his pals to simulate hunts and battles. You'd think that kind of childhood would lead to a career in entomology, right? But Tajiri had another love brewing: arcades. In the late 70s, as he hit his teens, video games exploded onto the scene in Japan. Donkey Kong, Space Invaders, they called to him like those buzzing wings once did. He became a regular at local arcades, pumping coins into machines until his allowance ran dry. That mix of outdoor exploration and pixelated excitement, it was the perfect storm brewing inside him. By the time he reached high school in the early 80s, Tajiri was hooked on gaming culture. But school, not so much. He struggled academically, often skipping classes to lose himself in arcades or tinker with early computers. His parents worried, of course. His father ran a small inn, and stability was the goal. Yet Tajiri's mind was elsewhere, dreaming of worlds where you could collect, train, and battle creatures without limits. After graduating, barely, he dove headfirst into the burgeoning game industry. Japan was a hotbed for it then, with companies like Nintendo rising fast. Tajiri bought his first computer, a NEC PC 8001, and taught himself programming through trial and error. Late nights turned into all-nighters as he coded simple games, fueled by instant noodles and sheer determination. You know that feeling when you're so absorbed in something that time slips away? That's how it was for him. But breaking in wasn't easy. The industry was competitive, and outsiders like Tajiri, without formal training, faced steep odds. Here's where his story takes a gritty turn. In 1982, at just 16, Tajiri co-founded a fanzine called Game Freak with a friend. It started as a passion project, a black and white newsletter printed on cheap paper, reviewing arcade games and sharing tips. They distributed it at conventions and arcades, hand stapling copies in someone's garage. Game Freak wasn't just a magazine, it was Tajiri's way of connecting with like-minded fans, building a community around the joy of gaming. Circulation grew slowly, from dozens to hundreds of subscribers, and it kept him afloat while he freelanced as a debugger for other developers. Imagine the thrill of getting fan mail or spotting your publication in a store. That validation must have felt like catching a shiny legendary Pokémon before anyone else. By the mid-80s, Game Freak evolved from a zine into a small studio. Tajiri and his partners rented a tiny office in Tokyo, scraping by on ad revenue and odd jobs. They released their first game, a simple puzzle title called Quinty, in 1989 for the Game Boy. It wasn't a blockbuster, but it proved they could make something real. Tajiri poured his soul into it, drawing from those childhood bug hunts to create mechanics about collecting and arranging pieces. Still, success eluded them. Bills piled up and doubt crept in. Would this dream fizzle out like so many others? But Tajiri had an idea simmering, one that fused his two great loves, bugs and games. In the early 90s, as Game Freak teetered on the edge, he began prototyping what he called capsule monsters. Think about it. You're holding a device no bigger than your hand, the Game Boy, and inside it, a world where you capture creatures in capsules, just like he'd imagined trapping bugs in jars as a kid. The concept was revolutionary. Players would roam a vast map, encounter wild monsters, catch them with thrown capsules, and then train them to battle others. It was inspired directly by his rural adventures, but digitized into something shareable and endless. Tajiri sketched it out meticulously, mapping regions based on real Japanese locales, from forests to mountains, each teeming with unique creatures. He even drew from manga like Doraemon, where gadgets shrink things into capsules, blending whimsy with strategy. Development started in earnest around 1990, with Tajiri leading a skeleton crew. They coded on outdated machines, testing battles that involved type advantages. Fire beats grass, water beats fire, you get the idea, mirroring the natural ecosystems he'd studied as a boy. Now, here's the part that really pulls you in. Turning capsule monsters into a full game was no smooth ride. Nintendo, the giant in the room, took notice of Tajiri's pitch in 1991. They saw potential in this collectathon idea, especially for their new portable console, the Game Boy, which was flying off shelves. But budgets were tight. Game Freak was a tiny outfit, and Nintendo could only greenlight a modest project. Tajiri had envisioned a sprawling RPG with dozens of monsters, complex stories, and seamless trading between players via link cables. Reality hit hard though. Development costs soared as they iterated. Early versions had glitchy captures, unbalanced fights, and a map that crashed too often. To cut expenses, they scaled back the colour palette. The Game Boy was monochrome, but Tajiri dreamed of vibrant visuals. Nintendo suggested splitting the game into two versions to boost sales, one with certain exclusive monsters, encouraging trades. It was a clever twist born of necessity. Budget constraints forced this duality, but it became genius. What started as capsule monsters evolved into Pokémon Red and Green, released in Japan on February 27, 1996. Red for the fiery, adventurous path, Green for the earthy, strategic one, colour-coded not just for flair, but to symbolise the balance of nature Tajiri cherished from his youth. You have to appreciate the irony, don't you? Those very limitations that could have sunk the project instead birthed one of gaming's most enduring mechanics. Without the split versions, trading wouldn't have been essential, and the social glue of Pokémon might never have stuck. Tajiri later said in interviews that the bug collecting roots were about sharing joy, not hoarding. Red and Green captured that. Over 150 creatures to catch, from the iconic starters Bulbasaur, Charmander, and Squirtle, to evolutions that mirrored insect metamorphoses. Launch day was quiet. No massive hype, just word of mouth in arcades and schools. But kids latched on. They traded at recess, battled on buses, and begged parents for the cartridge. Sales climbed to 1 million copies in months, shocking everyone. Tajiri, ever the introvert, watched from his cluttered office as his childhood visions came alive. He didn't chase fame, he just wanted to recreate that spark of discovery for others. And it worked. Pokémon wasn't just a game, it was a portal back to simpler times, where wonder hid in the grass at your feet. As we linger on Tajiri's journey, consider how his rural roots influenced every pixel. Take Pikachu, for instance. Not a bug, but a nod to the electric excitement of arcade lights that pulled him from the fields. Or the way routes wound like hiking trails he'd known, with hidden areas rewarding patient explorers. Game Freak grew with it, hiring more staff, but Tajiri stayed hands-on, ensuring the heart remained pure. Even the name change from Capsule Monsters to Pocket Monsters, Pokémon for short, came from that portable ethos, fitting neatly into your pocket, like a captured friend. Budget woes didn't just lead to Red and Green, they sparked the franchise's core loop of collect, train, trade. Imagine if they'd had unlimited funds. Would it have been better, or would the magic have diluted? Tajiri's vision thrived on constraints, turning potential pitfalls into playful innovation. Diving deeper, let's talk about the prototype's gritty details. Early Capsule Monsters builds had players using a capture beam instead of balls, more sci-fi than fantasy. Tajiri scrapped it for the throw mechanic, making it tactile, like netting a butterfly. He play-tested endlessly with friends, tweaking stats until battles felt fair yet challenging. One anecdote stands out. During a crunch period, Tajiri coded through the night, only to wake up to a bug, pun intended, in the system where monsters escaped endlessly. It reminded him of real-life hunts where patience won the day. By 1995, with Nintendo support, they polished it into Red and Green. The color coding twist? It saved money on artwork, shared sprites, just swapped palettes, and created replay value. Green leaned greener tones for its exclusives like Oddish, while Red popped with reds for Growlithe. Players needed both to complete the Pokédex, driving that communal spirit Tajiri craved. What surprises me most is how personal it all was. Tajiri has shared in rare interviews that autism spectrum traits made social interactions tough, but games and bugs were his bridges to the world. Pokémon became that for millions, including you, perhaps, listening now. As sales hit 2 million, Game Freak relocated, but Tajiri kept a low profile, letting the creation speak. The evolution from prototype to phenomenon shows resilience, from a kid's doodles to a cultural juggernaut. And that budget-driven split, it's why Pokémon endures, version after version, always 2 steps ahead, urging you to connect. But hold on, because we've only scratched the surface of where it all began in the games themselves. Up next, in our deep dive into Generation 1, you'll uncover the hidden layers of Kanto's world, from forgotten beta designs to the real-life inspirations behind your favourite starters. What secrets lie in those original 151, and how did they set the stage for everything that followed? Stick around, you won't want to miss it. Generation, come on. Deep dive. Did you know that the Kanto region, the birthplace of Pokémon, isn't just a fictional world pulled from thin air? It's a meticulously crafted mirror of Japan's real-life Kanto area, infused with subtle cultural tributes that make every step through its landscapes feel like a journey through history and tradition. As we dive deep into Generation 1, let's uncover how this region sets the stage for everything that follows. revealing layers you might have overlooked in your own adventures. Picture yourself starting out in Pallet Town, that quiet little spot where it all begins. In the game, it's a humble gateway, but its inspiration draws straight from the rural outskirts of Tokyo, the heart of the Kanto region. Developers at Game Freak wanted to capture that sense of departure, the moment you leave the familiar countryside behind for the bustling unknown. And as you venture north to Viridian City, you're essentially tracing a path that echoes the real Kanto's urban sprawl. Viridian, with its forested edges, and Central Gym nods to the green belts surrounding Tokyo, those pockets of nature that persist amid the concrete jungle. It's no accident. The entire map of Kanto is a stylized map of Eastern Japan, compressed into a pocket-sized adventure. Routes twist like the major highways connecting Yokohama to the surrounding prefectures, and bodies of water mimic the bays and rivers that define the area's coastline. But let's zoom in on those hidden cultural nods, the ones that reward the observant player. Take Saffron City, the gleaming metropolis at Kanto's core. It's an unmistakable homage to Tokyo itself, complete with a towering silhouette that stands in for the city's iconic skyscrapers. The fighting dojo there, that's a playful tribute to the martial arts heritage deeply rooted in Japanese culture, where dojos have trained warriors for centuries. And don't get me started on the Sylph Co building, a multi-floor corporate labyrinth that feels like infiltrating a high-tech Japanese megacorp, reflecting the economic boom of the 1980s when Pokémon was born. Even the underground paths beneath Saffron evoke the sprawling subway systems of Tokyo, those hidden veins pulsing with life underfoot. You can almost hear the echo of real commuters as your character navigates those dimly lit tunnels. Now, venture eastward to Fuchsia City, and you'll find another layer of subtlety. This coastal town, with its safari zone and warden's quirky habits, draws from the more laid-back, nature-oriented vibes of Chiba Prefecture, just east of Tokyo. The safari zone itself is a clever wink at Japan's national parks and wildlife reserves, where capturing animals in a controlled environment mirrors the ethical spirit of conservation that's big in modern Japan. And the ghost of the missing warden's teeth? That's tied to folklore traditions, where dentures and odd heirlooms pop up in stories as symbols of eccentricity and loss, much like the humorous tales from Kanto's countryside festivals. Of course, no deep dive into Kanto would be complete without touching on Cerulean City, the watery heartland inspired by Saitama's rivers and canals. The gym there, led by Misty's sisters, celebrates the aquatic sports and swimming culture that's huge in Japan, from sumo-inspired water festivals to the nationwide obsession with hot springs. But here's a fact that might surprise you. The cascading gym badge you earn, it's shaped like a wave, echoing the ukiyo-e art prints of Hokusai, the famous Kanto-born artist whose great wave off Kanagawa has become a global symbol of Japanese aesthetics. Game Freak wove that in subtly, making the badge not just a collectible, but a piece of cultural artistry. As you push through Rock Tunnel, that eerie, pitch-black passage, you're crossing into a nod to the mountainous terrain of the Kanto Highlands, like the Chichibu area. The lack of light forces reliance on your Pokémon's flash ability, mirroring how real explorers in Japan's caves use lanterns to uncover ancient secrets. And speaking of secrets, Lavender Town's somber tone hits differently when you realise it's modelled after the quiet, spiritually charged suburbs around Tokyo, where shrines and cemeteries blend into everyday life. The Pokémon Tower, often called the Lavender Tower, stands as a direct tribute to the Yasukuni Shrine and other memorial sites, places where the line between the living and the spirits blurs. that haunting music you hear, it's composed to evoke the solemn bells of Buddhist temples, a soundscape that pulls you into Japan's reverence for the departed. But Kanto's design goes beyond geography. It's laced with seasonal and festive elements that tie back to Kanto traditions. Think about the SS Anne, that luxury liner docked in Vermilion City. It's a clear reference to the international ports of Yokohama, once a gateway for Western influences during the Meiji era. Boarding it feels like stepping into Japan's history of global exchange, with Pokémon battles raging on decks that could host Hanami cherry blossom parties, and Route 12, with its sleeping Snorlax blocking the way, that's inspired by the rural roads of Ibaraki Prefecture, where massive roadside obstacles like fallen trees during typhoon season disrupt travel, forcing clever solutions much like using a poke flute to awaken the beast. What makes these nods so powerful is how they ground the fantasy in reality, making Kanto feel alive and personal. You aren't just catching Pokémon, you're exploring a region that honours its roots, inviting you to see Japan through a child's eyes. It's this blend of whimsy and authenticity that hooked millions from day one. Shifting gears now to the stars of your starting team, the original starters. You pick one in Pallet Town, but did you ever wonder about the inspirations behind Bulbasaur, Charmander and Squirtle? Let's peel back the layers on these iconic choices, starting with Bulbasaur, the seed Pokémon that's more than meets the eye. Lesser known fact, Bulbasaur's design fuses a dinosaur with a plant in a way that's straight out of prehistoric speculation. Game Freak drew from paleontological theories about ancient reptiles that might have symbiotic relationships with flora, imagining a creature where the bulb on its back is an extension of its body, photosynthesizing energy like a living greenhouse. That bulb isn't just cute, it's a nod to Venus flytraps and pitcher plants native to Japan, combined with the bulky form of a triceratops. Early concept art shows Bulbasaur evolving from sketches of armoured herbivores grazing in Kanto's imagined ancient forests, where the plant element was added to symbolise growth and renewal, core themes in Shinto beliefs about nature's cycles. Imagine Ivysaur with vines sprouting like tendrils from a fern, or Venusaur's massive flower blooming in full glory. That flower? It's patterned after the chrysanthemum, Japan's imperial symbol, used in everything from tea, ceremonies to royal crests. Bulbasaur's poison typing ties into the toxic beauty of certain Kanto wildflowers, like the deadly aconite that grows in the mountains. It's a hybrid that challenges you to think, what if dinosaurs never went extinct because they adapted with nature itself? This design philosophy influenced how starters balanced type advantages, making Bulbasaur a strategic pick against the early game's water-heavy foes, all while whispering stories of ecological harmony. Now Charmander, the fiery lizard that lights up your path. Its origins trace back to salamanders in Japanese folklore, those mythical creatures said to live in fire without harm. But dig deeper and you'll find influences from the mini-dragons in ukiyo-e woodblock prints, small yet fierce guardians of hearths. Charmander's tail flame, which weakens if it's sick or strong when healthy, is a clever metaphor for vitality, drawn from the foxfire legends of Kanto, where glowing spirits guide lost travellers. Squirtle, on the other hand, embodies the turtle motifs in Japanese art. Think of the wise, long-lived creatures in fables that carry the world on their shells. Its water cannons, inspired by the hydraulic engineering of ancient Japanese irrigation systems in the rice paddies around Tokyo. Squirtle's squad evolution into Blastoise even references naval history, with cannons evoking the ironclads of the Russo-Japanese War fought near Kanto waters. These starters weren't random. They were chosen to represent the elemental balance of earth, fire, and water, mirroring the Trinity in Japanese philosophy. Bulbasaur's plant dinosaur roots, in particular, set a precedent for hybrid designs that would define future generations, making your first choice feel like selecting a piece of evolutionary history. As we expand our exploration, let's talk about the original 151 Pokémon designs, those pixelated pioneers that burst onto the scene in 1996. Each one was handcrafted by a small team led by Ken Sugimori, blending cute aesthetics with deeper inspirations. But behind the final roster lie scrapped ideas that could have changed everything. For instance, early concepts included a ghost Pokémon based directly on urban legends from the Kanto area, like the slit-mouthed woman or the hand from the subway tales that chilled Tokyo commuters in the 80s. Imagine a spectral figure with a jagged grin, haunting the underground paths, its cry mimicking the screech of subway brakes. This ghost was meant to be a pure terror type, evolving into something that possessed machines, reflecting fears of technology run amok in modern Japan. Other scrapped designs floated around too. There was a bug Pokémon, inspired by the cicadas of summer festivals, with a life cycle that involved shedding skins in dramatic, puzzle-based evolutions, and a rock type based on the massive granite torii gates at shrines, immovable guardians that players would have to befriend rather than battle. These ideas were shelved to keep the roster balanced, but traces linger. Ghastly's gaseous form echoes those urban phantoms, drifting through Lavender Town like a vengeful spirit from a yokai tale. The 151 weren't just monsters, they were cultural ambassadors. Pidgey, the common bird, draws from the sparrows that flock to Tokyo's parks, symbols of community in haiku poetry. Rattata, the mischievous rodent, nods to the tanuki tricksters of folklore, shapeshifters causing harmless chaos. Even Pikachu, that yellow spark, has roots in the electric mice from ancient woodcuts, but we'll save her full story for later. The designs emphasize diversity. Electric types like Voltorb mimic the vending machines ubiquitous in Japan, while psychic Pokémon like Abra reference the meditative monks of Kanto temples. What's fascinating is how these 151 evolved through iteration. Mewtwo started as a cloned experiment gone wrong, inspired by Frankenstein-esque tales, but infused with Japanese sci-fi from anime like Akira. Mew, the mythical ancestor, was hidden as a secret encounter, embodying the elusive kitsune foxes of legend. Playful, powerful, and tied to the land's mysteries. Scrapped evolutions abounded too. A branch for Eve that became a dark type, based on shadow puppets from Kabuki theatre, was cut, paving the way for the versatile evolutions we know. Diving into the numbers, the original dex was capped at 151 to fit the Game Boy's limits, but each entry packed personality. Take the fossil Pokémon. Kabuto and Omanyte resurrect ancient sea life, drawing from the real ammonite fossils found in Kanto's coastal cliffs. Reviving them at Cinnabar Gym feels like unearthing Japan's paleontological treasures. With the DNA splicing machine, a nod to the biotech labs emerging in the 90s. And don't overlook the legendaries. Articuno, Zapdos, and Moltres guard the islands, inspired by the three sacred treasures of Japan: the mirror, sword, and jewel, each embodying elemental forces that shape the islands. These designs weren't static. They sparked rivalries and strategies. Who could forget the rivalry with your rival? Picking the starter strong against yours, a dynamic that mirrored the competitive sumo matches of Kanto Doyo rings. The badges themselves, 8 in total, each a micro-story. The boulder badge from Brock's Pewter Gym, evoking the unyielding rocks of Mount Fuji, visible from Kanto on clear days. As we wrap up this deep dive into Generation 1, you've seen how Kanto's blueprint, the starter's hidden depths, and the 151's creative genesis form the unbreakable foundation of Pokémon. It's a world built on respect for heritage, innovation, and wonder, pulling you in with every route and encounter. But hold on, because what comes next flips the script entirely. In Chapter 4, Pikachu's Unexpected Rise, you'll discover how this unassuming electric mouse clawed her way from side character to global superstar, secrets that even longtime fans might have missed. You won't want to drift off before hearing how it all unfolded. Pikachu's Unexpected Rise. Did you know that Pikachu, the electrifying star of the Pokémon world, started out as an underdog in more ways than one? Back in the early days of Pokémon's creation, when Game Freak was piecing together their revolutionary game, Pikachu wasn't the instant choice for mascot that we might imagine today. In fact, it was almost passed over entirely for something else entirely. Let's rewind to 1996 in the bustling offices of Nintendo in Japan. Satoshi Tajiri, the visionary behind Pokémon, and his team at Game Freak had been toiling away for years on what would become Pocket Monsters, later simplified to Pokémon. They needed a face for the franchise, something cute and memorable to draw players into this vast world of collecting and battling creatures. The initial frontrunner? Not Pikachu. It was Clefairy, that pink fairy-like Pokémon, with its whimsical charm and moonwalking reputation from folklore. Clefairy seemed perfect, adorable, magical, and tied to those childhood dreams of catching fireflies on summer nights. But as prototypes were tested and feedback rolled in, something wasn't clicking. Players loved the battles, the strategy, but the emotional hook felt a bit too soft, too ethereal for the adventure they were building. That's when Pikachu entered the picture. Designed by the talented artist Ken Sugimori, Pikachu was inspired by a mix of real-world rodents and electric folklore, like the thunder gods of Japanese myths. With its bright yellow fur, rosy cheeks that sparked with electricity, and those signature black-tipped ears, it was meant to be energetic, mischievous, a little bundle of raw power. But even then, Pikachu faced rejection. The team worried it was too ordinary, a mouse, in a world of dragons and psychics. It didn't scream legendary like some of the other designs. And here's where it gets really close to changing everything. There was another electric mouse concept floating around in those early sketches. This one was sleeker, more angular, with a design that leaned into a futuristic vibe, almost like a cybernetic rodent ready to zap through cityscapes. It had sharper features, longer tail, and a colour scheme that popped in blues and silvers. The developers debated it fiercely. Could this edgier mouse capture the spark they needed? Would it stand out more on the Game Boy screen? You can almost feel the tension in those meetings, can't you? Tajiri and Sugimori poring over drawings late into the night, weighing if this alternative would better represent the thrill of electricity in battle. In the end, after playtesting and a gut feeling that the original Pikachu's simplicity would let kids connect on a deeper level, they stuck with the yellow one we know. It was a narrow escape. If that other mouse had won out, our Pokémon journey might have zapped in a totally different direction. Pikachu became the mascot for Red and Green, the Japanese versions of the first games, riding on Ash Ketchum's shoulder in spirit, even if the anime hadn't hit yet. But at launch, it was just one of 151 Pokémon. No special pedestal, no overnight fame. Sales were steady, but not explosive. Pokémon was a hit in Japan, sure, but Pikachu? It was cute, relatable, yet still blending into the crowd of Pidgeys and Rattatas. Now fast forward to 1997, and this is where the real magic and the massive turnaround happens. The Pokémon anime bursts onto the scene, airing for the first time on Japanese TV. The creators at OLM Studios knew they had to make this world come alive, and they decided to center it around a young trainer named Satoshi. Yes, named after Tajiri himself, and his loyal partner. Who did they pick? Not Charmander or Bulbasaur, the classic starters. No, they chose Pikachu, that same rejected mascot, as the reluctant companion who starts off zapping Ash at every turn. In your mind, the first episode, Pokémon I Choose You. Ash oversleeps, misses the easy starters at Professor Oak's lab, and ends up with a Pikachu that's more feral cat than friendly pet. It refuses to obey, blasts Ash with thunderbolts, and even leaves him hanging from a power line. But through trials, a flock of Spearow attacking, Pikachu stepping up to defend its trainer with a massive thunderbolt that lights up the sky, the bond forms. That electric payoff. It hooked viewers instantly. What you might not realise is how that anime episode didn't just entertain, it transformed Pikachu overnight. Before the show, Pokémon games had sold about 5.8 million copies in Japan. But as the anime aired, tying directly into the games with episodes that mirrored catching and training mechanics, sales skyrocketed. Pikachu wasn't just a game sprite anymore. It was a character with personality, sass, and heart. Kids watched it befriend Ash, evolve their own strategies around its moves like Quick Attack and Iron Tail, and suddenly plush toys flew off shelves. Merchandise exploded. Pikachu backpacks, keychains, even school supplies. In 1 year, the anime pushed global awareness, and when Pokémon hit the West in 1998, Pikachu was already the face. The trading cards? Pikachu cards became the hottest item. The virtual pets? Pikachu versions outsold everything. It was like a cultural lightning strike. Pikachu went from potential reject to the symbol of joy, friendship, and that unbeatable underdog spirit. But let's dig deeper into why the anime was such a game changer for you, the listener who's drifting through this story tonight. Think about the voice acting, Ike Otani giving Pikachu those iconic Pika-Pee cries that convey everything from excitement to exhaustion without a single word. It made Pikachu feel alive, like a best friend you could talk to. And the exposure? The show aired in over 90 countries within a couple of years, dubbing Pikachu's name unchanged across languages, which was a stroke of genius. Ikichi had English. It kept that same spark, no translation needed. Suddenly kids in America, Europe, everywhere were chanting, "Pikachu, I choose you," at recess. The 1999 Pokémon movie, Mewtwo Strikes Back, featuring Pikachu's heroic moments against a psychic clone army, raked in over $160 million worldwide on opening weekend alone. Pikachu wasn't just popular, it was a phenomenon, bridging generations and cultures in a way no other character had before. Of course, no story about Pikachu's rise would be complete without touching on its family tree and those fun evolutions that kept fans coming back. After the initial games, as Pokémon expanded into Gold and Silver in 1999, the developers at Game Freak wanted to deepen the lore. Pikachu had no pre-evolution in Gen 1. It just appeared as this eternal kid in the Pokémon world. But fans clamoured for more backstory, more ways to nurture these creatures from the ground up. Enter Pichu, the tiny spiky-eared baby form, added in Generation 2. Pichu was like the ultimate payoff for Pikachu's charm. Even smaller, even cuter, with cheeks that deliver shocks that sometimes backfire on itself. Evolving into Pikachu through happiness and leveling up. It mirrored the emotional growth in the anime, where bonds matter more than raw power. And then, in later gens, Raichu as the thunderous evolution, but Pikachu's choice to stay unevolved in the anime. That became its signature, a symbol of loyalty and timeless youth. You see, Pichu's addition wasn't just a cute extra, it expanded the electric mouse legacy in ways that surprised everyone. Imagine training a Pichu, watching it stumble through its first sparks, building that friendship meter until it bursts into Pikachu's confident glow. It added layers to the gameplay, encouraging players to think about family dynamics in this monster-collecting world. Fun fact, Pichu even got its own spin-off moments, like in the Pokémon Mystery Dungeon games, where it teams up as a rookie rescuer. And culturally, Pichu plushies became the must-have for new fans, passing the torch while keeping Pikachu at the centre. This evolution of the family tree turned Pikachu from a solo act into the patriarch of an electric dynasty, ensuring its rise felt organic, ever growing. As Pikachu's fame spread, it influenced everything from fashion to music. Remember the Pikachu-themed outfits at Tokyo Fashion Weeks, or the way it starred in viral dances on early YouTube? But beneath the hype, there's this quiet truth. Pikachu's success came from a vulnerability. That rejected mascot, the one almost swapped for a slicker rival, taught us that sometimes the simplest design wins hearts. It zapped its way into our lives because it felt real, flawed, feisty, and fiercely loyal. Without the anime's bold choice to make it Ash's partner, we might still be talking about Clefairy as the big star. Or worse, that forgotten alternative mouse design gathering dust in concept art folders. And yet, Pikachu's story doesn't stop at fame. It evolves with the franchise. In spin-offs like Pokémon Yellow, you start with Pikachu as your buddy, walking behind you on the map, just like in the show. It deepened that personal connection, making you feel like the protagonist in your own adventure. Even today, in Pokémon Go, catching a shiny Pikachu or participating in Pikachu-focused events draws millions outdoors, sparking real-world joy. It's a testament to how one little creature, born from near rejection, became the heartbeat of a billion-dollar empire. But as we wrap up this chapter on Pikachu's unexpected rise, you can sense the adventure pulling us forward. Up next in Chapter 5, the Johto journey begins, where new regions unfold with mysteries that will leave you wondering what challenges await Ash and his evolving team. Stick around, because the sparks are just getting started. The Johto journey begins. In 1999, Pokémon took a bold leap forward with the release of Gold and Silver, the second generation games that didn't just add new creatures, but reshaped the entire world. You thought you knew, from the original Red and Blue. You remember starting your journey in Kanto, right? Catching Pikachu or Charmander, battling your way through gyms, but Gold and Silver pulled you into Johto, a region right next door, full of misty mountains, bustling ports, and ancient ruins that felt like stepping into a living history book. It's where the adventure evolved, literally and figuratively. And if you're settling in for this quiet exploration tonight, let's uncover how this generation turned Pokémon into something deeper, more connected to the rhythms of real life. Picture yourself booting up Gold or Silver for the first time. The screen lights up, and suddenly, the world isn't static anymore. Johto isn't just a map of routes and towns. It's alive with the passage of time. That's the genius of this generation. It introduced the day-night cycle, a simple yet revolutionary feature that made the game breathe. During the day, you'd wander through Goldenrod City, the heart of Johto, with vendors calling out and trainers eager for battle. But as the in-game clock ticks toward evening, the streets quiet down, shops close, and nocturnal Pokémon start to emerge. Have you ever chased a hoot-hoot at dusk, its eerie hoot echoing through the tall grass? Or tried to catch a Stantler under the moonlight, only to realise some encounters only happen after dark? This wasn't just cosmetic, it tied into your real-world schedule. If you played in the mornings before school, you'd meet different wild Pokémon than if you snuck in a session late at night. It made every playthrough feel personal, like the game was syncing with your life, pulling you deeper into its web. And those time-based events, they added layers of surprise that kept you coming back. Take the bug catching contest in the national park. Held only on certain days of the week, Tuesdays, Thursdays and Saturdays. You'd show up with your net, heart pounding, competing against other kids to snag rare bugs like Scyther or Pinsir. Win, and you'd get prizes that boosted your team in ways you couldn't plan for. Or consider the swarm of Heracross hiding in specific trees, appearing only on Wednesdays. It forced you to think ahead, to log your playtime around the calendar. No more grinding endlessly. Now, patience and timing became your allies. You felt that thrill, didn't you? Checking the clock, planning your route, knowing that missing a day meant waiting a whole week in-game. This expansion made Johto feel vast and unpredictable, a world that didn't wait for you. It moved with you, or sometimes without you, urging you to explore at just the right moment. But Gold and Silver didn't stop at mechanics. They wove in stories that echoed ancient tales, drawing from the rich folklore of Japan to give their legendary Pokémon a mythical weight. Let's talk about the legendary beasts, Entei, Raikou and Suicune. These aren't just powerful fire, electric and water types roaming the land. They're guardians born from tragedy, inspired by the yokai of Japanese legend. You see, in the games they're said to have perished in a fire at the burned tower in Ecruteak City, only to be revived by Ho-Oh, the rainbow phoenix. Chase them across Johto's plains and peaks, and you'll uncover their lore, but the real magic lies in their roots. Entei, the volcano dog with flames erupting from its mane, draws straight from the Japanese folktale of the Inugami, a spirit bound to a canine form, fierce and loyal, often summoned for protection or vengeance. Imagine ancient storytellers around a fire, whispering of dogs forged in the earth's fury. Their howls shaking mountains, that's Entei, brought to life in pixels. Raikou, crackling with lightning, echoes the Raiju, a thunder beast from Edo period myths, said to ride storms and feed on lightning. Its body, a blur of fur and electricity. You'd hear tales of it hiding in clouds, striking fear into sailors. And now, in Gold and Silver, it's sprinting across the savannas, untamable and wild. Then there's Suicune, the elegant Aurora beast, purifying waters with its every step, clearly inspired by the Suzaku or even the Kappa, water spirits that guard rivers and cleanse impurities. But go deeper, and you'll find connections to the four symbols of Chinese mythology filtered through Japanese lens. The beasts representing seasons and elements, reborn as eternal wanderers. What hits you is how Game Freak honoured these origins without spelling them out. You don't need a history lesson to feel the awe. Catching one after a marathon chase, watching it roar in your party, connects you to centuries of storytelling. It's that shiver of discovery, realising your pocket monsters carry the weight of legends passed down through generations. As you journey through Johto, these beasts aren't the only surprises. The region builds on Kanto's foundation, but twists the rules in ways that strengthen bonds, not just with Pokémon, but with friends. Take evolutions, for instance. They got clever here, encouraging you to trade with others in ways that turn solo play into a social adventure. Remember Onyx evolving into Steelix, or Haunter into Gengar? In the first generation, some felt out of reach without a link cable, but Gold and Silver amplified that, making trades feel essential and exciting. You'd connect your Game Boy to a buddy's, swap a bell sprout for their Dratini, and boom, your Kadabra becomes Alakazam mid-handshake. It wasn't just about power, it fostered real connections. Imagine trading at recess, negotiating over which Pokémon to give up, then racing back to see your new team member glow and transform. That shared moment, the yes when it works, built friendships that lasted beyond the game. And it's not limited to trades. Gold and Silver introduced evolutions tied to items or levels in fresh ways, like Yanma needing to learn ancient power to become Yanmega much later, but the trade Avos stood out for their multiplayer push. Think about Scyther holding a metal coat to evolve into Sizer during trade. Suddenly you're not just playing alone, you're part of a network. In Japan, where link battles were huge in arcades and homes, this mechanic mirrored the communal spirit of Pokémon trading cards or shows. You felt included, part of something bigger. Even the story reflects it. After beating the Elite Four, you sail back to Kanto, facing old rivals like Blue, but now with a team forged from trades and time. It's a reminder that growth comes from exchange, from reaching out. Have you ever dusted off your old cartridges for a trade nostalgia session? That rush returns every time, proving how these twists made Johto not just a sequel, but a bridge to deeper relationships. Diving deeper into Johto's charm, let's linger on New Bark Town, your starting point. You step out of your house. Professor Elm hands you your first Pokémon, Chikorita, Cyndaquil, or Totodile, and the world unfolds. The routes wind through forests where Sentret pop up like prairie dogs, and Sudowoodo blocks paths, mimicking a tree until you squirt it with water. It's whimsical, but grounded in that folklore vibe. Ecrutique's dance theatre hosts the Kimono Girls, their performances summoning the beasts, echoing no theatre traditions, where spirits dance into existence. You battle them, earn the clear bell, and suddenly Suicune appears in a swirl of mist, pure poetry in gameplay. The gyms too challenge you uniquely. Faulkner's flying types in Violet City test your ground strategies early, while Bugsy's insect arena in Azalea Town with its web traps feels like stepping into a hidden grove from old tales. And don't get me started on the Lake of Rage, where a red Gyarados rampages every time. A nod to the ever-changing dragon myths where beasts awaken in fury, catching it with a master ball. That high-stakes decision lingers, making you weigh power against rarity. Gold and Silver even expanded the Pokédex to 251 entries, blending old favourites with newcomers like the starter evolutions, Meganium's Floral Grace, Typhlosion's Blazing Fur, Feraligatr's Swamp King Menace. Each feels tailored to Johto's aesthetic, nature intertwined with mystery. The radio in your Pokégear broadcasts contests and signals to lure roaming beasts, turning travel into a tuned-in experience. You'd hike Route 36, headphones on in your mind, waiting for that static burst announcing Raikou nearby. It built suspense, made every step count. Reflecting on the day-night cycle again, it influenced breeding too. The daycare on Route 34 only activates certain eggs based on time, like getting a Cleffer at night. This mechanic rewarded dedicated players, those who played consistently, mirroring real parenting rhythms. You nurtured your Pokémon, waited for hatches, and watched families grow. Subtle, but it added emotional depth. No wonder fans replay these games decades later. They capture that sense of wonder tied to time's flow. Now those legendary inspirations, let's unpack Entei more. In folklore, volcanic dogs like the Kazaninu guarded hot springs, their warmth both blessing and curse. Game Freak captured that duality. Entei's sacred fire attack heals while burning, a protector that scorches foes. Raiku's speed evokes the Raiju's storm dashes, zipping through roots faster than your bike. Suicune's north wind move freezes the air, purifying like a river spirit's breath. These aren't random designs. They're homages that enrich the lore. Imagine the developers poring over scrolls, blending myth with monster design to create icons that endure. The trade evolutions shine in multiplayer stories. Friends would host trade parties, swapping for evolutions like Poliwhirl to Politoed with a King's Rock, new here, adding flavour. It encouraged experimentation. Trade a Slowpoke for a King's Rock. Get Slowking's regal wisdom. These moments built trust, turned rivals into allies. In a pre-online era, it was Pokemon's way of saying, share the journey. As Johto's paths lead you toward greater challenges, you'll soon discover how the elements themselves define every clash, every strategy in the heat of battle. Up next, in Chapter 6, Elemental Types and Battles, we'll unravel the type matchups that turn a simple fight into a symphony of strengths and weaknesses. Get ready to see why fire beats grass but water douses flame, and how mastering these can change everything you thought you knew about Pokémon combat. Elemental Types and Battles. Did you know that in the original Pokémon games, every single battle boils down to an intricate dance of just 15 elemental types, each one holding the power to turn the tide of victory or spell instant defeat? These types aren't just labels, they're the heartbeat of strategy, the quiet architects behind those epic showdowns you've replayed in your mind 1,000 times. As we settle into this chapter on elemental types and battles, let's peel back the layers together, exploring how these forces shape the Pokémon world in ways that feel almost poetic, perfect for drifting through your own sleepy strategy sessions. Let's start at the foundation. Back in Generation 1, with Red and Blue, the creators introduced 15 types. Normal, fire, water, electric, grass, ice, fighting, poison, ground, flying, psychic, bug, rock, ghost, and dragon. No fairy type yet. No steel or dark to complicate things further. Each type represented a slice of nature's raw power, drawn from the world around us, but twisted into something magical. Normal was the everyday baseline, like your reliable starter without the flash. Fire brought the heat of flames and fury. Water flowed with the calm of rivers and the crash of waves. Electric crackled with lightning speed. Grass embodied growth and wilderness. Ice chilled with frostbite. Fighting channeled raw physical might. Poison seeped in with toxins and decay. Ground shook with Earth's unyielding force. Flying soared on winds and wings. Psychic tapped into the mysteries of the mind. Bugs scurried with insectile resilience. Rock stood firm like ancient stone. Ghost whispered from the shadows of the unseen. And dragon? That was the pinnacle, mythical and mighty, evoking legends of serpents and skies. But what makes these types truly fascinating is their matchups, the hidden rules that dictate super effective damage, resisted attacks, and outright immunities. Imagine you're in the heat of a gym battle, your Pikachu facing off against Brock's Onix. Electric moves? Useless against ground types like that rocky beast. You'd take double damage from its rock attacks, forcing you to pivot to water or grass instead. That's the strategic depth we're diving into here, the kind that rewards foresight without demanding you stay wide awake. It's like a gentle puzzle, unfolding as you let your thoughts wander. Take fire types, for instance. They're super effective against grass, ice, bug, and steel. Wait, steel wasn't original, but you get the idea from the start. A Charizard breathing fire on a Venusaur? Devastating, melting through those leafy defences. But flip it, and fire crumbles against water, ground, and rock. One hydro pump from a Blastoise, and your flames are out. Why does this matter? Because building a team isn't just about raw power, it's about coverage. You wouldn't stack your squad with all fire types unless you're begging for a rainy day or a surfing Squirtle to drown your dreams. In those original games, trainers learned this the hard way, swapping Pokémon mid-battle to exploit weaknesses, turning what could be a rout into a thrilling comeback. Water types mirror this balance beautifully. They douse fire, shock ground types into submission, and even overpower rock with relentless erosion. Picture Misty's Starmie unleashing a waterfall on a Geodude, super effective, washing away stone, like time itself. Yet water falters against electric and grass. A thunderbolt from an Electabuzz? Your swimmers are fried. And don't get me started on grass's immunity to electric in some cases, but wait, that's a matchup we'll circle back to. The beauty here is the cycle. Water beats fire, fire beats grass, grass beats water. It's a rock, paper, scissors loop that keeps battles dynamic, forcing you to think 2 steps ahead, even if you're half dozing through the strategy. Electric types zip in with their paralyzing precision, zapping water and flying foes for double damage. Jolteon's Thunder Wave on a Pidgeot. That bird's grounded before it can flap, but they're neutralized by ground, literally buried, taking no damage from digs and quakes. And oh, the drama against flying. Super effective, but if your opponent switches to a grounded counter, you're left sparking uselessly. These interactions aren't random. They're designed to mimic real-world physics in a fantastical way. Lightning seeks the path of least resistance, just like it shorts out water but gets swallowed by earth. Grass, the verdant underdog, thrives against water, ground, and rock, choking out moisture, tangling roots, and outgrowing stone. Bulbasaur's vine whip on a Rhyhorn. It binds and breaks, but fire scorches it. Flying slices through, poison wilts it, bug chews it up, and ice freezes it solid. 6 weaknesses. That's a lot to juggle, but pair grass with a water type for dual coverage, and suddenly your team absorbs electric hits like a sponge. That's the strategic layering, the sleepy satisfaction of piecing together a balanced roster that feels unbreakable. Ice brings the freeze, shattering flying, ground, grass, and dragon types. Articuno's Blizzard on a Dragonite. Even legends shiver, yet it's fragile. Fire, fighting, rock, and steel melt it away. In original matchups, Ice's power against dragons was a game changer, but its 4 weaknesses made it a high-risk play. You'd save it for that perfect moment, like icing a cake you know will impress. Fighting types punch through normal, rock, steel, ice, and dark, though dark came later, with brutal efficiency. Machamp's cross-chop on a golem, rocks tumble, but they bounce off flying, poison, bug, psychic, and fairy. Ghost? Immune entirely. No spectral fistfight there. This forces fighting users to ground their foes first, maybe with a ground buddy to clip wings. Poison stings. Normal, grass, and fairy, but resists fighting and poison itself. It's the creeping threat, like coughing smog wearing down a herd of Oddish. Weak to ground, and psychic though, it needs careful positioning. Ground quakes against poison, rock, steel, fire, and electric, swallowing sparks and flames whole. Diglett's Earthquake on a Magneton, lights out. But immune to electric, resisted by flying and bug, it's the ultimate counter to tech-heavy teams. Flying sweeps fighting, bug, and grass from above, untouchable by ground. Pidgeot's aerial ace on a Hitmonlee, feathers over fists, yet electric, ice, and rock clip its wings, storms and stones grounding the skies. Psychic dominates, fighting and poison, mind over muscle. Alakazam's Psychic on a Primeape, thoughts crush brawn, but weak to bug, ghost and dark, those shadows pierce the psyche. Bug buzzes through grass, psychic and dark, swarming the mind in greenery. Pinsir's vice grip on a venonat, fitting, but fire, flying and rock squash it flat. Rock endures against fire, flying, bug and ice, a fortress of stone. Onyx's rock, slide on a butterfree, wings clipped, vulnerable to water, grass, fighting, ground and steel. Though erosion wins eventually, ghost haunts psychic and ghost, phasing through normals. Gengar's shadow ball on a Mr. Mime, barriers broken, immune to normal and fighting, but weak to, here's where it gets intriguing, ghost and, originally, psychic. Dragon roars supreme against itself, the only type it targets super effectively. Dragonite's dragon rage on another dragon, mutual destruction. But ice 4 times it, dragon resists itself, and fairy later neuters it. In the originals, dragons were rare powerhouses, demanding respect. These 15 types weave a web of 351 possible one-on-one interactions, super effective, not very immune, creating endless strategic depth. You could spend hours, as we are now, pondering team comps. Want to counter a water-heavy opponent? Stack electric and grass, but watch for their ground switches. It's this interplay that makes battles more than button mashing. It's chess with creatures where one overlooked matchup flips the board. Now, let's uncover some hidden type combos that add that extra layer of surprise, the kind that sneaks up on you like a midnight Pikachu. Take the infamous Ghost versus Psychic glitch from Generation 1. On paper, Ghost was meant to be super effective against Psychic, slipping through mental shields like fog through fingers. But a programming oversight made Ghost moves do 0 damage to Psychics instead. Imagine your Gengar facing Sabrina's Alakazam, Lick or Nightshade. Nada. It wasn't until Pokémon Yellow and later games that a patch fixed it, making Ghost the perfect counter it was always intended to be. This bug turned strategies upside down. Players avoided Ghosts against Psychics, unaware of the intended ethereal edge. What a revelation. Types with secrets buried in code, waiting for you to discover them. Another hidden gem. Normal's utter uselessness against rock and steel, but immunity to Ghost keeps it spectral safe. Or how flying dodges ground entirely, letting it perch above earthquakes. Combine flying with electric, like Zapdos, and you've got a storm that zaps waters and flyers alike, but praise no rocks are thrown. These combos aren't shouted from rooftops. They're the quiet tactics that win leagues, perfect for mulling over as your eyelids grow heavy. And speaking of inspirations, these types didn't spring from thin air. They're steeped in myths and lore that echo across cultures, giving battles a timeless feel. Fire types, for starters, mimic volcanic myths from Hawaiian Pele to Japanese Kagutsuchi, gods of eruption and rebirth. Charmeleon's flames aren't just hot, they're the forge of creation, burning away the old to spark new life. You'd feel that primal surge in a battle, the ground trembling as lava flows, reminding you of eruptions that shaped islands. Water draws from ocean lore, the vast unpredictable seas of Norse Jörmungandr or Polynesian Moana. Squirtle's waves carry the mystery of depths where treasures hide and storms brew. It's no wonder water types adapt so fluidly, mirroring how ancient sailors read tides for survival, just as you read an opponent's moves. Electric channels thunder gods like Zeus or Thor, lightning as divine wrath. Pikachu sparks, echoes of hammers on anvils in the sky, quick and unforgiving. Grass pulls from fertility myths, like Celtic Green Man or Aztec maize gods, growth as endless renewal amid battle's chaos. Ice evokes frozen realms of Inuit Sila or Norse Niflheim, chill as preservation or peril. Fighting, pure martial epics from samurai codes to Greek heroes, poison from alchemical serpents, ground from earth mothers like Gaia, flying from Icarus dreams and eagle spirits, psychic from oracles and shamans peering into fates, bug from folklore pests and transformers, rock from golem tales, ghost from ancestral spirits, dragon from every culture's sky serpents. These roots make types feel alive, battles not just games, but tapestries of human imagination. Picture a Dragonite clashing with an ice type under auroras, myth meeting myth in pixelated glory. As we layer these inspirations onto matchups, the strategy deepens. A fire-ground duo like Camerupt counters electric and rock beautifully, but watch for water's double threat. Or psychic flying like Satu, dodging ground while mind-zapping fighters. The originals rewarded experimentation. You'd trial runs in the Viridian Forest, tweaking until your team sang in harmony. Let's linger on a classic battle scenario to illustrate. You're challenging the Elite Four. Lorelei's Ice Team, super effective against your Dragonite. Switch to Electric. No, her Jinx resists it. Go Fighting, melts the ice. But if she packs a Psychic like that era's Haunters, your Ghost plan fizzles due to the bug. Pivot to Rock. Onyx crushes ice. See? Each choice ripples, a cascade of counters that keeps you engaged, even in repose. Delve deeper into bug types, often dismissed but sneaky strong. Scyther's Flying Bug slashes grass and Psychic for quadruple fun. Wait, no. Bug super effective on Psychic, flying on grass, but combined. Devastating multipliers. Yet Fire and Rock, double trouble. Bugs teach patience, swarming when least expected. Poison ground like Nidoking poisons rock, while ground buries it, perfect for fossil Pokémon revivals. Immunities stack too. Ghost normal like Girafarig later, but in originals, pure ghosts ignore normals entirely. Dragon scarcity amplified its lore. Only a handful like Dratini line, but their power demanded ice prep. Strategic depth, Horde TMs for coverage, like teaching Ice Beam to a Jinx for dragon hunts. These elements blend into what makes Pokémon enduring. Battles as metaphors for life's balances, Fire's passion quelled by water's calm, Electric's haste grounded by Earth's steadiness. As you ponder your own dream team, maybe a balanced 6 covering all bases, feel the pull of possibility. We've traversed the matchups, unearthed those coding ghosts, and traced mythical threads, all while keeping the strategy soft and soothing for your winding down. But before we fade into the next horizon, consider this. The elemental dance truly blooms in regions like Hoenn, where tropical secrets hide even wilder type twists amid lush jungles and hidden coves. What mysteries await there, blending sea, sky and stone in ways that redefine the game? Stick around for Hoenn's tropical secrets and let those revelations carry you deeper into the night. Before we dive deeper into this incredible journey, I'm curious, where in the world are you watching this from? Drop a comment below and let our global community know. And if you're finding this as mind-blowing as I am, hit that like button to help more people discover this story. Hoenn's tropical secrets. Did you know that the Hoenn region, inspired by Japan's Kyushu Island, hides a tropical paradise where volcanoes rumble and oceans teem with ancient mysteries? It's the heart of Generation 3 in Pokémon Ruby and Sapphire, a world that flipped the script on how we battle and perform, pulling you deeper into its sun-soaked secrets. Let's uncover what makes Hoenn so irresistibly enchanting. Generation 3 burst onto the scene in 2002 with Ruby and Sapphire, marking a fresh start after the Kanto and Johto adventures. You step off a boat in Littleroot Town, a sleepy coastal spot where the air smells of salt and blooming flowers, and suddenly you're thrust into a region that's all about balance, land versus sea, expansion versus preservation. Unlike the straightforward paths of earlier games, Hoenn demands you navigate winding routes, dive underwater for hidden grottos, and even soar on the back of a majestic bird to reach isolated peaks. It's a place designed to make you feel the thrill of discovery. Every corner whispering promises of rare Pokémon like the fiery Torchic or the watery Mudkip. But what really sets Ruby and Sapphire apart is the introduction of double battles, a mechanic that turns every fight into a strategic dance. Imagine this. Instead of pitting one Pokémon against another in isolation, you're commanding two at once, their moves overlapping in ways that can turn the tide spectacularly. Your lead might set up a protective screen, while your partner unleashes a devastating combo, like a thunderbolt chaining into a surf for massive damage. It's chaotic, exhilarating, and forces you to think 2 steps ahead. Why did they add this? The developers wanted to mimic real-world tag team dynamics, drawing from martial arts and even wildlife packs where creatures hunt or defend together. In Hoenn's gyms, leaders like Roxanne with her rock-solid Geodude duo or Brawly surfing into battle with 2 Makuhita make you sweat, teaching you that victory isn't just about power, it's about synergy. You might recall your first double battle against those wild Seedot and Poochyena on Route 102. That panic as attacks fly from both sides. It's what hooks you, making every encounter feel alive and unpredictable. And then there's the contest system, Hoenn's glittering stage for Pokémon showmanship. Forget raw battling for a moment. These contests let your Pokémon shine in categories like cool, beauty, cute, smart and tough, where appeals and performances score points from judges. You train moves not just for damage, but for flair. A flamethrower might dazzle with swirling fire rings in the cool contest, or a thunder wave could create sparkling lights for the beauty round. It's like entering a talent show where your Trico juggles leaves or your Wingull sings with Bubble Beam, held in vibrant halls across cities like Slateport and Falabor. Contests build your Pokémon's condition through Pokéblocks, sweet treats made from berries that boost stats for the spotlight. This system adds layers to the journey, rewarding creativity over brute force. Picture yourself in Lily Cove's massive contest hall, the crowd roaring as your Swellow executes a perfect aerial ace display, ribbons fluttering in victory. It's Hoenn's way of saying, Pokémon aren't just fighters, they're performers, artists, friends who deserve the applause. These contests even tie into the story, unlocking deeper lore and rare items, making you invest emotionally in every ribbon earned. As you traverse Hoenn's diverse landscapes, from the humid rainforests of Route 119 to the arid deserts of Route 111, you can't ignore the shadowy forces at play. Enter Team Magma and Team Aqua, the rival organisations that drive the region's central conflict, their ambitions rooted in profound environmental themes that echo real-world debates. Team Magma, clad in bold red hoods, dreams of expanding the land to create more space for Pokémon and humans alike. Led by the fiery Maxi, they believe the oceans have encroached too far, swallowing fertile ground and limiting growth. Their plan: awaken the legendary ground-type Groudon, the embodiment of the Earth's raw power, to boil the seas and raise new continents. It's a vision of progress through dominance, mirroring arguments in environmental circles about land reclamation and urban expansion. Think how cities like Miami battle rising waters, or debates over damming rivers for farmland. On the flip side, Team Aqua, in their deep blue wetsuits, champion the seas with equal fervour. Under Archie's command, a man scarred by his own encounters with nature's fury, they seek to summon Kyogre, the water-type legend that commands rainfall and floods to expand the oceans. They argue that dry land starves marine life, pushing for a world drowned in abundance to revive coral reefs and aquatic habitats. This draws straight from global conversations on climate change, ocean conservation, and the fight against deforestation. Issues like overfishing in the Pacific or the push to protect wetlands from development. You see it in their hideouts, magma's volcanic layers pulsing with heat, Aqua's submerged bases teeming with kelp and currents. Their clashes aren't just villainous plots, they're philosophical battles. Remember the showdown on Mat Chimney, where magma tries to melt the mountain's ecosystem for their cause, or Aqua's raid on Slateport's shipyard to seize submarine tech? It forces you to question, who's right, the landlubbers or the sea defenders? In Hoenn, these teams aren't cartoonish evils. They're extremists born from genuine passions, making their defeat bittersweet as Rayquaza intervenes to restore balance. But Hoenn's secrets run even deeper, buried in ruins that hint at powers beyond the stars. Let's talk about the origins of Mega Evolutions, that fan-favourite twist that first teased its potential in these ancient stones scattered across the region. You stumble upon them in places like the desert ruins housing Regirock, or the scorched floors of Scorched Slab, where faint carvings depict Pokémon transforming under mysterious lights. These aren't just power-ups, they're echoes of Hoenn's primordial past when bonds between trainers and Pokémon unlock temporary evolutions through megastones, crystals infused with life force. The lore suggests they stem from a cataclysmic era long before recorded history, when Groudon, Kyogre and Rayquaza clashed in a war that nearly shattered the world. Mega Evolution, as glimpsed in those ruins, was a desperate ritual, trainers channeling their will through these stones to amplify their partner's strength, turning a humble Sceptile into a blade-wielding powerhouse or a Swampert into an armoured behemoth. What makes this so captivating is how it ties into Hoenn's theme of hidden potential waiting to erupt. Much like the region's active volcanoes or undiscovered shipwrecks. Explore the sealed chamber beneath the waves, and you'll find Braille messages warning of the ultimate form that awakens only through unbreakable trust. Fans obsessed over these hints for years, theorizing connections to Devon Corporation's tech or the meteorites from space. In Ruby and Sapphire, it's subtle. A glallatite shard glimmers in a cave, foreshadowing the mechanics fully realized in later games. But imagine holding that stone, feeling the pulse of ancient energy, knowing your Pokémon could transcend limits. It's what keeps you grinding for that 1 in a million encounter with a wild Absol, wondering if its megaform lurks in the shadows of Meteor Falls. Diving deeper, Hoenn's tropical allure shines through its Pokémon lineup, each one a nod to the region's biodiversity. Take the starter Combusken, evolving into the kickboxing Blaziken, perfect for those double battles where its blaze kick can ignite a foe while speed boost ramps up the frenzy. Or the elegant Lombre, a lily pad dancer whose contests steal hearts with watery ballets. The region boasts over 135 new species, from the ghostly Shuppet haunting abandoned theatres to the steel-clad Aran mining desertors. Each feels tailored to Hoenn's vibes. Tropius, with its fruit-laden neck like a walking orchard, or the serpentine Milotic emerging from Phoebus in a transformation story of beauty from ugliness. You fish in the rippling waters off Dewford, battle bikers on Moville's loops, and puzzle through the trick house's mind-benders, all while the soundtrack of crashing waves and rustling palms lulls you into its rhythm. The elite challenges amplify this immersion. Gym leaders aren't just obstacles, they're mentors steeped in Hoenn's essence. Winona's Altaria soars like the winds over Fortree City, teaching aerial tactics, while Juan's Kingdra commands the Sotopolis currents with icy precision. The Elite Four awaits in Evergrande City, a gauntlet of fire, ghost, dark and dragon specialists that tests every double battle trick and contest-honed move. Defeating them unlocks the champion, your rival Steven Stone, whose Metagross crushes with meteor-like might, a fitting capstone to Hoenn's metallic undercurrents, from the Steelix in Victory Road to the Reggie Trio guarding forbidden lore. Yet beneath the victories, Hoenn grapples with loss and renewal. The Weather Institute on Route 119 studies storms that rage unnaturally, hinting at Kyogre's influence, while the abandoned ship creaks with tales of sunken treasures and ghostly sailors. These elements weave a narrative of fragility, coral reefs bleaching under magma's heat, or farmlands flooding from Aqua's deluge. It's a subtle commentary on our world, where debates rage over balancing human needs with nature's, much like the Kyoto Protocol, signed around the same time as Ruby and Sapphire's release, pushing for global emission cuts. You feel it as your character, piecing together the Devon goods for submersibles or gliders, becoming the mediator in this ecological saga. And those ancient ruins, they're treasure troves of speculation. The island cave's walls, etched with scripts only decipherable by Braille, summon Regis from eternal frost, a mega-capable guardian whose origins tie back to a civilization that harnessed mega-energy to seal away threats. Fans pore over these, connecting dots to Carlos's full reveal years later. But in Hoenn, it's pure tease. A slate slab in a sunken ruin, pulsing with otherworldly light, or the root fossil in Mirage Tower crumbling to dust unless you're quick. These moments spark that childlike wonder, making you replay routes just to glimpse a rare Mirage Island where Liechii berries boost your contests to legendary status. As you seal the Weather Trio's chaos and watch Rayquaza coil through the ozone, Hoenn leaves you with a sense of harmony restored. But questions linger. What other tropical enigmas await in regions beyond? That brings us to the next chapter, Sinnoh's Mythic Legends, where creation myths and time-bending deities unravel in ways that will leave you questioning the very fabric of the Pokémon universe. Stick around. You won't want to miss how these ancient tales reshape everything you thought you knew. Sinnoh's Mythic Legends. In the heart of the Pokémon world lies Sinnoh, a region where ancient myths whisper secrets of creation itself, drawing from the very fabric of time and space. Generation 4, with its flagship games Diamond and Pearl, plunged players into this enigmatic land, blending epic storytelling with profound lore that still captivates fans today. You remember stepping into Twinleaf Town, that quiet starting point, only to be swept into a tale that questions the origins of everything around us. But what if I told you that at the core of these games beats a mythology inspired by Shinto beliefs and cosmic wonders, where legendary Pokémon aren't just powerful creatures, but architects of reality? Let's unpack Diamond and Pearl right from the start. Released in 2006 for the Nintendo DS, these titles marked a bold evolution in the series. The dual-screen innovation allowed for a more immersive map on the top and battles on the bottom, but it was the narrative that truly shone. You play as a young trainer in Sinnoh, a land modelled after Japan's Hokkaido Island, with its snowy peaks, vast lakes and rugged coasts. The story kicks off innocently enough, with rival antics and gym challenges, but it quickly spirals into something cosmic. Team Galactic, led by the enigmatic Cyrus, seeks to remake the universe in his image, harnessing the power of Dialga and Palkia. These aren't your typical villain plots. They're rooted in philosophy, exploring themes of imperfection and the desire for a flawless world. As you journey from the bustling canals of Canalave City to the ethereal peaks of Met Coronet, you're not just catching Pokémon, you're unraveling the threads of existence. Now picture this. At the dawn of the Pokémon universe, according to Sinnoh's myths, 3 divine beings emerged to shape reality. Dialga, the temporal Pokémon, embodies time itself. Its steel-blue body, etched with clock-like patterns, pulses with the relentless march of seconds and centuries. Legends say Dialga was born from the cracks in the egg of creation, roaring to set the flow of time in motion. Without it, moments would collapse into chaos. No past to learn from, no future to strive for. In Diamond, you confront Dialga in its temporal domain, a shimmering distortion where the air warps like a broken hourglass. Capturing it isn't just a badge of honor. It's like holding the heartbeat of the world in your hands. Have you ever paused during a battle wondering how a single Pokémon could command something so abstract? That's the genius of Dialga. It forces you to think beyond the Pokédex entry. Then there's Palkia, the spatial Pokémon, Dialga's counterpart and guardian of space. In Pearl, it's the star of the show, a pearl-pink behemoth with arms that stretch like portals, capable of warping dimensions at will. The myths describe Palkia as the force that expanded the void into the vast expanse we know, folding distances and birthing stars. Together, Dialga and Palkia represent the duality of existence, time stretching infinitely, space containing it all. But their power is a double-edged sword. In the games, Cyrus awakens them at Spear Pillar, the ruins atop Mount Coronet, triggering a rift that threatens to unravel Sinnoh. You arrive just in time, your team battered from the ascent, to witness a clash that feels like the end of days. It's thrilling, isn't it? That moment when the screen shakes and you realise these legends aren't distant icons, they're active forces clashing in a spectacle of light and shadow. These creation myths draw heavily from real-world inspirations, echoing the Japanese concept of the universe's birth in Kojiki texts, where deities forge the world from primordial chaos. Game Freak wove this in seamlessly, making Sinnoh feel alive with history. As you explore, you'll find lore scattered in stone tablets and elder tales, like the one in Celestic Town, where an old woman recounts how Dialga and Palkia were tasked by a higher power to maintain balance. But who set them in motion? That's where the story deepens, pulling you into questions about purpose and origin that linger long after the credits roll. Shifting gears a bit, let's talk about one of the most addictive side features in Diamond and Pearl, the Underground, or Sinnoh Underground as it's known. This isn't your standard Pokémon hideaway. It's a sprawling network of caverns where you chisel away at walls to unearth treasures. Remember the hammer and pickaxe tools? You tap away on the DS touchscreen, chipping at sparkling veins, hoping for a rare fossil or a shiny stone. It's mesmerising, that rhythmic clink-clink as shards tumble out, revealing everything from evolutionary stones to sculptures you can trade with friends. But what makes it special is its roots in reality. The Underground was inspired by Japan's own gem hunting culture, particularly the amethyst mines in Fukushima or the opal fields in Nagano. In Japan, enthusiasts flock to these sites, using simple tools to dig for crystals, much like the artisans of old who believed gems held spiritual power. Think about it, you're not just mining for items, you're tapping into a tradition where finding a perfect sphere or a luminous shard feels like discovering a piece of the Earth's soul. In the game, this ties back to Sinnoh's myths, as the treasures often reference the legends. Unearth a lustrous orb, and it boosts Palkia's power, echoing the spatial themes. Or snag a Draco plate, hinting at draconic creators. Game Freak even added multiplayer elements, letting you visit friends' bases underground, displaying your halls like a personal museum. I bet you spent hours there, didn't you? That satisfying ping when a big find drops, pulling you away from the main quest. It's a perfect breather, blending relaxation with that thrill of the hunt, all while nodding to how real miners in Japan turn excavation into a meditative art. As you delve deeper into these caverns, the lore starts to connect dots you didn't even know were there. Fossils like the skull fossil revive ancient Pokémon like Cranidos, creatures from a time before Dialga's clock even started ticking. It's a clever way to layer history, making the underground feel like a portal to Sinnoh's past. And speaking of layers, the inspiration goes beyond just digging. Japanese gem hunting often involves community events where families gather to sift through soil, sharing stories under the stars. Diamond and Pearl captured that communal spirit, turning a solo activity into something shareable, fostering bonds just like those real-life excursions. But none of this mythology stands alone. At the pinnacle of Sinnoh's legends sits Arceus, the original one, the alpha Pokémon that birthed it all. Revealed in subtle hints throughout Diamond and Pearl, Arceus is the creator deity, a white, equine figure with golden wheels representing the plates of creation. In the myths, it emerged from an egg in a chaos of nothingness, shedding plates that formed Dialga for time, Palkia for space, and Giratina for antimatter, the outcast ruler of the distortion world. You encounter echoes of Arceus in the Hall of Origin, a hidden area post-game, but its full reveal came later in Platinum and the movies, solidifying its role. Arceus isn't just powerful, it's the philosophical anchor, raising questions about existence that hit close to home. What came before the Big Bang? Is there a singular force behind our universe? The games don't preach, but they invite you to ponder, especially when you wield the azure flute to summon it, feeling like you've touched the divine. This ties into broader themes of Sinnoh's design. The region's layout mirrors a creation story, from the watery depths of Lake Verity, where Azelf guards willpower, to the fiery heart of Stark Mountain. Each Lake Guardian, Uxie for knowledge, Mesprit for emotion, Azelf for will, represents the pillars of life, awakened by Arceus to instill purpose in humanity and Pokémon alike. It's profound, how a kid's game weaves in existentialism without overwhelming. You battle Cyrus, who rejects emotion as weakness, only to see his plan crumble against the harmony these legends embody. Ever wonder why Sinnoh feels so introspective compared to sunnier regions? It's this mythic backbone urging you to reflect on your own journey. Expanding on Arceus, consider its type-changing ability via plates, 18 in total, each altering reality like a god reshaping clay. This mechanic isn't just gameplay, it's a metaphor for creation's fluidity. In real-world parallels, Shinto Kami shift forms, embodying nature's versatility. Game Freak honoured that by making Arceus elusive, a post-game secret that rewards dedicated players. And Giratina, the renegade of the trio, banished to the reverse world for its wrathful nature, adds a dark twist. Its ghostly, serpentine form haunts the Turnback Cave, a labyrinth of fog and mirrors, symbolising the unseen underbelly of existence. Capturing it feels like balancing the scales, acknowledging that creation isn't all light. There's shadow too. Back to the game's core, Diamond and Pearl's story culminates in a choice that echoes these myths. Do you side with time in Diamond or space in Pearl? It's a subtle nod to duality, but both paths lead to the same truth. Balance is key. Cyrus's downfall isn't in power, but in ignoring that. As you seal the rift, Dialga and Palkia retreat, their roars fading into legend once more. It's a satisfying payoff, leaving you with a sense of awe. And the underground complements this perfectly, offering a grounded counterpoint. While legends soar in the abstract, mining roots you in the tangible joy of discovery, inspired by those Japanese hunts where a single gem can spark wonder. Let's linger on that inspiration a moment longer. In Japan, gem hunting isn't just hobby, it's cultural. Places like the Hotaka opal mine let visitors chip away, unearthing beauties formed over millennia, much like how Sinnoh's treasures hint at ancient forces. Game Freak consulted such experts, ensuring the mechanics felt authentic. The satisfaction of crafting from shards, straight from real stonemasons who polish finds into jewellery. You can almost hear the echoes of those traditions in the underground's ambient chimes, pulling you deeper into the region's soul. Philosophically, Arceus challenges us further. If it's the Alpha, what does that mean for free will? The Lake Guardians suggest emotion and knowledge drive us, but Arceus oversees it all. In the anime and manga, it's depicted as a watchful presence, intervening only when balance teeters. This ties into player agency. You shape your story, but the legends frame it. It's why Sinnoh endures. It makes you feel part of something vast. As we wrap up these mythic depths of Sinnoh, from Dialga's timeless gaze to Palkia's spatial embrace, and Arceus's eternal watch, you can't help but feel the pull of what's next. The legends here set a high bar for wonder, but Unova's modern twist takes us into a whole new era, blending urban grit with revolutionary ideals that might just redefine what Pokémon means to you. Stick around, you won't want to miss how it all evolves from here. Unova's modern twist. Did you know that Pokémon Black and White marked the first time in the series where not a single Pokémon from previous generations could be used at the start of your journey? That's right, Generation 5 threw out the entire Pokédex from Kanto to Sinnoh and said, let's build something entirely new from the ground up. It's a bold move, one that forced players like you to rethink everything they knew about catching and training these creatures. Welcome to Unova, a region that feels like stepping into a modern metropolis, inspired by the bustling energy of New York City, but with a Pokémon twist that challenges the very heart of what it means to be a trainer. Picture this, not that you need to close your eyes, but let the words sink in as we explore how Unova shakes things up. Released in 2010, Black and White introduced 156 brand new Pokémon, from the fiery starter Tepig to the enigmatic legend Reshiram and Zekrom, embodiments of truth and ideals locked in eternal conflict. No Pikachu cameos, no Charmander to fall back on. You were dropped into a world where every encounter was fresh, every battle a discovery. This wasn't just a design choice, it was a statement. The developers at Game Freak wanted to recapture that sense of wonder you felt as a kid playing the original Red and Green games, where the unknown loomed around every corner. Can you remember that thrill? The way your heart raced when you didn't know what wild Pokémon might pop out next? Unova recaptures that, but in a sleek, urban package. As you travel through Unova, the region unfolds like a living, breathing cityscape. Starting in Nuvema Town, a quiet suburb that quickly gives way to the towering skyscrapers of Castelia City, it's clear this isn't your grandparents' Pokémon world. The streets are alive with the hum of everyday life, trainers rushing to gyms, vendors hawking Pokeballs, and yes, even a subway system that mirrors New York's iconic underground network. Speaking of which, Unova's Battle Subway is one of the game's most ingenious features, a nod to the real-world subway's role in connecting the Big Apple. You board these high-speed trains, challenging waves of opponents in a gauntlet of battles that test your team's endurance over 21 straight fights. It's not just transportation, it's a proving ground. Fun fact, The subway bosses, like the subway masters, Alder and Ingo, draw from NYC's transit history, where the system has been shuttling millions since 1904. In Pokémon terms, riding the battle subway feels like navigating rush hour, but instead of delays, you're dodging bullet seeds and thunderbolts. Have you ever timed a perfect run through the super train, racking up victories without a single feint? It's addictive, that rhythm of arrival, battle, and departure, echoing how New York's subways pulse with the city's heartbeat. But Unova's modern twist goes deeper than its architecture or mechanics. At its core, Black and White grapples with profound moral questions that linger long after the credits roll. Enter N, the enigmatic king of Team Plasma, whose name stands for natural or something more symbolic. It's up for debate among fans. N isn't your typical villain. He's a tortured soul raised in isolation, surrounded only by Pokémon, hearing their voices in his mind. He believes that Pokémon are enslaved by humans, forced into battles against their will, and his mission is to liberate them all. Sound familiar? It's a direct challenge to the trainer norms you've accepted since day one. Why do we catch Pokémon? Is it partnership or possession? N's bond with his own Pokémon is pure, almost empathetic. He treats them as equals, not tools for glory. When he speaks to you, the player, his words cut deep. Humans and Pokémon should never have met. It's a philosophy that makes you pause mid-game, staring at your screen, wondering if your team resents the Pokeballs they're trapped in. Think about the moments that drive this home. Early on, Team Plasma storms a Pokémon release event, preaching freedom while secretly plotting to steal everyone's Pokémon for themselves. A hypocritical twist that exposes the dangers of extremism. But N's personal arc steals the show. As you journey, you see flashbacks of his childhood, locked away by his father, Getsis, the true puppet master. N communes with Pokémon in ways no human trainer can, like when he releases a wild Pokémon right in front of you, claiming it's happier free. It's heartbreaking, isn't it? That quiet conviction in his voice, delivered through text boxes that feel almost poetic. And the climax, oh the climax. Without spoiling too much for those who haven't played, N's confrontation with you isn't just about power. It's a debate on coexistence. Reshiram or Zekrom chooses sides based on your ideals, forcing you to affirm your belief in the trainer-Pokémon bond. Does N win you over, even a little? Many players walk away questioning their own playstyle, maybe even releasing a few favourites into the wild after the game. This moral depth sets Unova apart, turning a simple RPG into a fable about empathy and responsibility. It's no accident. The story draws from real-world animal rights discussions, subtly woven into the fabric of the adventure. You feel it in the side quests too, like helping lost Pokémon find their way or battling poachers in hidden groves. Unova doesn't shy away from the grey areas. Team Plasma's ideals have merit, even if their methods are twisted. Getsis, with his cold manipulation, represents the corruption that can arise from misguided passion. He's the villain you love to hate, his speech is dripping with false righteousness. Fools who cling to their Pokémon out of greed, he thunders, but you see through it, uncovering his plot to rule with an army of dragons. Diving deeper into the fresh start aspect, Unova's all-new Pokémon roster isn't just a gimmick. It's a showcase of creativity that reflect the region's modernity. Take the elemental monkeys. Snivy, the cool-headed grass type with its leafy scarf. Tepig, the plucky fire pig that evolves into a flaming samurai. And Oshawott, the water otter whose seashell weapon screams innovation. Each starter evolves into forms that blend cute with formidable, like Embor charging like a sumo wrestler, or Samurott slicing with graceful precision. Then there are the urban dwellers, like the electric Jolteek, a tiny parasite that hitches rides on larger foes, or the ghostly Yamask, a spirit carrying a mask that's actually its human face from life. Talk about eerie lore that adds layers to the world building. The legendary Pokémon here elevate the stakes. Reshiram, with its white-hot turbine tail, symbolises truth, scorching lies with dragon breath. Zekrom, cloaked in black, wields ideals through electric fury. Their rivalry stems from an ancient myth where twin heroes split the land, one seeking knowledge, the other action. It's a metaphor for the game's themes. Do you pursue truth through liberation, like N, or ideals through harmony, like the champion Alder? And don't forget Kyurem, the frozen husk that absorbs the others in the sequels, Black 2 and White 2, which expand Unova 2 years later. Those games revisit the region post-conflict, showing how ideals evolve or devolve over time. You return to a changed Castelia, battle new threats from a reformed Team Plasma, and even join the Pokémon World Tournament to pit Unova's stars against legends from other regions. It's a fresh start extended, proving that reinvention keeps the series alive. Now, circling back to that subway system, it's more than a fun minigame. It's a clever integration of Unova's inspirations. New York City's subway spans over 665 miles of track, serving 472 stations, a labyrinth that Unova miniaturizes into battle arenas. In the game, you choose lines like the normal train or the ice train, each with themed opponents that ramp up in difficulty. Beat 7 sets, and you face the Subway Master, a double battle that demands strategy, like switching types on the fly. It's a relaxing yet tense diversion, perfect for grinding levels without the open world grind. Fans speculate the design nods to the IRT lines with their numbered routes, but in Pokémon, it's all about that victory rush as the train pulls into the station. Your reward's waiting. As we unpack these layers, you start to see how Unova's modern twist revitalizes the formula. The graphics popped with 3D elements on the DS, from rotating battlefields to dynamic seasons that change routes. Snow in winter hides items, summer blooms rare flowers. The music, that jazz-infused soundtrack for Castelia City, horns blaring like a street parade, pulls you into the vibe. And the characters, beyond N, feel fleshed out. Bianca, your childhood friend, grows from clumsy to confident, mirroring your own journey. Sharon, the rival, obsesses over strategy, pushing you to think deeper. But let's linger on those moral dilemmas a bit more, because they hit differently in a series often seen as light-hearted. N's bond with Pokémon isn't abstract, it's visceral. He speaks their language, understands their pain from battles. When he releases legendary Pokémon mid-story, it's a gut punch. Are you the villain in his eyes? This challenges trainer norms head-on. Battles as sport versus battles as cruelty. Post-game, in Black 2 and White 2, N wanders as a free spirit, his castle in ruins, seeking his own path. You can even battle him again, a poignant reunion that underscores themes of redemption. It's storytelling that makes you reflect. In your playthroughs, do you rotate your team to give everyone spotlight or bench the weak? Unova nudges you toward kindness. Expanding on the fresh Pokémon lineup, consider the insect horde. Venipede's armoured curl-up evolves into Scolipede, a centipede tank that sweeps with poison spikes, or the dinosaur-inspired Drudagon, a cave dweller with rough skin that punishes contact. Each feels designed for Unova's diverse biomes, from the wind-swept Drift Vale drawbridge to the sandy desert resort, where fossils unearth ancient Tirtuga and Archon, bridging old and new. No transfers meant every Pokémon had to stand on its merits, leading to gems like the fairy-like Cottonee, which predates the fairy type, but hints at it with its sunny charm. Unova's urban inspiration shines in everyday details too. Pinwheel Forest hides ruins with ancient lore, but the city gyms demand modern tactics, like Berg's bug traps in Castilia's studio, or Alessa's electric fashion show on a runway. It's a blend of grit and glamour, much like NYC, the Pokémon musical in Nimbasa City, a full-on Broadway homage where you dress up your team for performances, earning applause that boosts stats. Who knew showbiz could be so strategic? As we wrap up this dive into Unova's modern twist, those moral undercurrents and fresh innovations leave you pondering long after. But hold on, because the evolution of types takes an even more magical turn in the next chapter, Kalos and the Fairy type emergence, where a new element shakes up the meta and introduces a region of elegance and intrigue. You won't want to miss how it all unfolds. Kalos and Fairy type emergence. In 2013, Pokémon X and Y burst onto the scene as the 6th generation of games, transforming the series with full 3D graphics that made the world of Kalos feel alive in ways fans had only dreamed of. You step into Lumiose City, and it's like wandering the streets of a vibrant European capital with towering lights and bustling avenues that pull you right in. This wasn't just a graphical upgrade, it was a revolution. For the first time, every Pokémon model moved with depth and personality, from the sway of a Pikachu's tail to the majestic glide of a legendary like Xerneas. Imagine catching your first wild Pokémon not on a flat sprite, but in a fully rendered environment where you can see the grass rustle and the shadows shift. It hooked players instantly, making exploration feel immersive and personal, like you were truly part of this adventure. But what really shook up the meta was the introduction of the Fairy type, a surprise move that no one saw coming. Up until then, Dragon types had dominated battles, shrugging off so many attacks with their raw power. Think of how Salamence or Dragonite could steamroll entire teams. Game Freak knew they needed a counter, something elegant yet devastating. Enter Fairy, the type that turns the tables on dragons, dealing super effective damage while resisting their assaults. It's like the ultimate plot twist in a story you've known for years. Why Fairy? The lore ties it to mythical creatures, enchantment and whimsy, fitting perfectly into Kalos's romantic, artistic vibe. Suddenly, Pokémon like Clefairy, once cute but underwhelming, became strategic stars. You could picture a Sylveon Ribbons dancing through the air, dismantling a Garchomp with a single Moonblast. This type didn't just balance the game, it injected fresh excitement into every matchup, forcing trainers to rethink their strategies overnight. Diving deeper into Kalos, the region itself draws heavy inspiration from France, with its rolling countryside, grand chateaux, and that iconic Eiffel Tower stand-in, Prism Tower, glowing in the heart of Lumiose. As you journey from the sunny beaches of Route 8 to the snowy peaks of Frost Cavern, the 3D world opens up secrets around every corner. Remember the first time you rode your roller skates through those smooth city paths? It felt freeing, almost therapeutic, gliding past street performers and hidden alleys. The games encouraged exploration with features like the player search system, letting you connect with friends worldwide for trades and battles, building a sense of community even in solo play. And the starters, Chespin, Fennekin, Froakie, each one a charming bundle of potential, evolving into grass, fire and water powerhouses that carried you through gyms led by stylish leaders like Viola and her bug-eyed cameras. Now let's talk about what made battles in X and Y pulse with intensity. Mega evolutions. These aren't your standard evolutions, they're temporary power surges that happen right in the heat of combat, giving your Pokémon a dramatic boost when you need it most. To pull one off, you need 2 key pieces: a Megastone, a rare gem specific to certain species, and a Keystone embedded in your trainer's accessory, like a bracelet or glasses. When the conditions align, holding the right item and syncing with your Pokémon, you activate it by pressing a button mid-battle. The screen flashes, your Pokémon roars, and it transforms into a Mega form with enhanced stats, new abilities, and sometimes altered typings. Take Charizard, for example. In its Mega X form, it gains Dragon typing alongside Fire, boosting its attack to brutal levels with the Tough Claws ability that amps up contact moves. Or Mega Y, leaning into speed and special attack with Drought summoning Harsh Sunlight. It's not permanent, the Mega form only lasts for that battle, reverting afterward, which adds a layer of strategy. Do you save it for a tough opponent, or risk it early? Players obsessed over hunting those Mega Stones in hidden spots across Kalos, from the glittering reflections in Reflection Cave to the depths of the Sea Spirit's Den. This mechanic wasn't just flashy, it deepened the bond between trainer and Pokémon. You had to choose wisely, often favouring your favourites, turning battles into emotional showdowns. Remember facing the Elite Four? Lysandra's ultimate weapon subplot wove Mega Evolution into the story, hinting at its ancient origins tied to AZ, the Kalos king whose grief birthed these powers. It made you feel the weight of history in every activation, like unlocking a forbidden strength passed down through generations. And the designs? Oh, they were chef's kiss. Lucario's Mega form, with its aura spikes, or Garchomp's armoured menace, each one a visual feast that the 3D engine brought to life, making your heart race as the transformation unfolded. Of course, the fairy type's emergence rippled through the Pokédex, revitalising old favourites and introducing new ones that captured hearts. Gardevoir's Mega form, for instance, becomes the ethereal guardian, with Pixelate turning normal moves into fairy ones, perfect for sweeping dragons aside. But perhaps the most heartwarming addition was Sylveon, the fairy Eevee evolution that stole the show. Eevee had always been the adaptable darling, branching into Jolteon, Flareon, and more based on stones or conditions. Sylveon, though, required something softer, high friendship levels, built through battling together, camping, or just walking side by side. In X and Y, this affection system was refined, letting you nurture your Eevee until it evolved into this ribbon-wrapped wonder during the day. Picture it, your little Eevee, after countless adventures, glowing with a pink aura as those feelers sprout, ready to charm and dazzle. It's a nod to the emotional core of Pokémon. Not every evolution needs a stone or level. Sometimes it's about the quiet moments of care that forge unbreakable bonds. Sylveon's addition felt like a love letter to fans who cherish the series' whimsical side. With moves like Draining Kiss that heal while hitting hard, and an ability like Cute Charm to flinch foes, it wasn't just powerful, it embodied joy. You could imagine training one in the flower fields of Route 4, petals fluttering as it learns to embrace its fairy heritage. This evolution mechanic paved the way for future affection-based changes, but in Kalos, it shone as a reminder that Pokémon thrive on connection. Trainers shared stories of their Sylveons becoming team anchors, their serene presence calming even the fiercest rivalries. Kalos didn't stop at battles and evolutions. It wove storytelling into every pixel. The game's narrative centered on themes of beauty and destruction, with Team Flair's eco-terrorist twist challenging you to protect the region's elegance. Legendaries Xerneas and Yveltal represented life and destruction, their eternal dance mirroring the balance the fairy type brought to types. And don't get me started on the Exp Share overhaul, now a tool you could toggle, letting you grind efficiently without sidelining your squad. It made leveling up feel rewarding, especially when mega hunting rare encounters like the hidden Phoebers in Route 3's streams. As you progressed, the 3D world revealed layers of detail that rewarded patience. The Pokémon Amy feature let you play minigames with your team, petting them to boost affection and even influence battle outcomes with pokes or cheers. It was intimate, turning your DS or 3DS into a virtual playground where a quick poke could turn the tide against a gym leader. And the music, those orchestral swells during Mega Evolutions or the jazzy Lumiose tunes, elevated the atmosphere, making late-night sessions unforgettable. But let's circle back to how the fairy type redefined rivalries. Before X and Y, dragon dominance was unchallenged. Now a simple Jigglypuff could puff up and pop a Haxorus with Play Rough. It was chaotic fun, sparking endless debates in forums about type charts and counters. Game Freak's secrecy around the reveal built hype. Leaks were minimal, so launching the game felt like unwrapping a gift. You boot it up, catch a fletchling, and suddenly your team has options that feel magical. Mega Evolutions extended this thrill to dozens of Pokémon, each with tailored stones scattered like treasures. Venusaur's thick vines in Mega form, Blastoise's massive cannons, they all amplified what made the originals beloved. The limit of 1 Mega per battle forced tough choices, adding chess-like depth. In doubles, coordinating with a partner trainer's Mega could lead to epic combos, like a Mega Altaria's Fairy Dragon synergy, overwhelming foes. Sylveon's spotlight grew with its anime appearances, where it tugged at heartstrings as a loyal companion. Evolving one became a rite of passage, especially since later games built on this with daytime requirements. It contrasted the high-stakes mega battles with gentle progression, balancing the chapter's intensity. Exploring Colus's routes, from the haunted Glittering Cave to the vast Terminus Cave hiding Regirock, each area tied back to the 3D innovation. You could free roam in 3D space, jumping ledges or surfing waves with newfound fluidity. It set a standard for future genes, proving Pokémon could evolve without losing its soul. As we wrap up this dive into Kalos's wonders, the 3D leap, the fairy surprise, and those thrilling mega moments, you might find yourself yearning for more regional tales. Up next in Alola's Island Adventures, we'll sail into sun-soaked paradise where Z-moves unleash explosive power and starters with a tropical twist redefine what it means to be a trainer. What secrets do those islands hold? That could top Kalos's elegance? Stick around and let's find out together. Alola's Island Adventures. Did you know that in the Pokémon world, the 7th generation took us to a sun-soaked paradise where battles feel more like beachside escapades than intense showdowns? That's Alola for you, the tropical region introduced in Pokémon Sun and Moon, where the vibe shifts from the structured paths of previous adventures to something freer, more island-inspired. As you settle in and let these facts wash over you like gentle waves, let's dive into what makes this generation so refreshingly different. Generation 7 arrived in 2016 with Sun and Moon, the first mainline Pokémon games to break away from the traditional dual version formula by leaning into a single, interconnected story, split by day and night themes. You play as a young trainer who moves to Alola from another region, perhaps Kanto or Johto, seeking a fresh start after some family changes. The islands of Alola, 4 lush volcanic landmasses named Melemele, Akala, Ula Ula, and Pony, form the backbone of your journey. Each one pulses with Hawaiian influences, from the ukulele strumming locals to the vibrant markets and hidden coves. But what really sets this region apart is how it reimagines Pokémon evolution itself. Enter regional forms, or Alolan forms, where familiar Pokémon adapt to their new environment, taking on new types, appearances, and even behaviours that reflect the island's unique ecology. Take the Alolan Vulpix, for instance. In its original Kanto home, Vulpix is a fiery fox with a penchant for flames. But in Alola's humid climate, it evolves into the icy Ninetales, its fur turning snowy white and crystalline. Why? The story goes that these Pokémon sought cooler spots on the island's mountaintops to escape the heat, developing ice powers over generations. You can imagine encountering one during a misty morning hike, its breath forming delicate frost patterns in the air. Or consider Alolan Geodude, no longer a rocky brute, but a steel-electric hybrid that looks like it's made from ancient island gravel mixed with magnetic ore. These forms aren't just cosmetic changes. They shake up battles, forcing you to rethink strategies. A once grass-type Exeggutor becomes a towering palm tree-like dragon in Alola, swaying in the breeze before unleashing a draconic roar. It's these adaptations that give Sun and Moon a tropical flair, making every wild encounter feel like discovering a hidden evolutionary secret tailored to paradise life. And speaking of flair, nothing captures Alola's energetic spirit quite like Z moves. These are powerful, one-time bursts of energy channeled through Z crystals, rare gems that resonate with a Pokemon's type. Picture this. You're in the midst of a trial on Akala Island, facing a totem Pokémon that's calling in allies left and right. Your partner Pokémon holds Ethereum Z, and with a dramatic pose, yes, you have to strike a specific stance to activate it. You unleash a massive, screen-shaking attack like Inferno Overdrive, a blazing supernova that engulfs the foe. Z moves aren't just stronger versions of regular moves. They're spectacle, turning battles into cinematic events with animations that burst with colour and motion, like fireworks over the ocean at dusk. There are 30 different Z moves, each tied to a type, and some Pokémon even get signature ones, such as Decidueye's Sinister Arrow Raid, where it knocks an arrow of pure shadow and lets it fly with eerie precision. What makes them so addictive is the rarity. You can only use one per battle, so choosing the right moment feels like a high-stakes decision, adding layers of strategy to Alola's laid-back atmosphere. It's as if the islands themselves infuse your team with this explosive, sun-kissed power, reminding you that in Alola, strength comes from harmony with the environment, not just raw force. But as you explore these idyllic shores, a darker mystery begins to unfold, one that pulls you into dimensions beyond the familiar Pokémon world. Have you ever wondered what happens when invasive species crash into a delicate ecosystem? In Alola, that concept comes alive through the Ultra Beasts, extra-dimensional creatures that slip through rifts in reality, threatening the island's balance. These aren't your typical Pokémon. They're otherworldly invaders, inspired by real-life pests that disrupt native habitats, like koki frogs or rose beetles in Hawaii. The first one you encounter might be Nihiligo, a jellyfish-like entity with tentacles that pulse with toxic light, luring victims into a trance before poisoning them. It's said to have inspired ancient Alolan myths of sea ghosts that drag sailors into the deep. But in truth, it's from ultra space, a bizarre realm of distorted physics. The Ultra Beasts, Buzzwole, Furimosa, Xurkitree, Kartana, Celesteela, Guzzlord, and Stakataka, each hail from different ultra-megalopolises, pocket dimensions accessed via wormholes called ultra-wormholes. Buzzwole, for example, is a hulking, muscle-bound mosquito that flexes its way through battles, its design drawing from blood-sucking insects that swell after feeding. Pheromosa sleek and fragile like a praying mantis, moves with blinding speed but shatters under pressure, embodying the invasive grace of something that doesn't belong. Then there's Guzzlord, a gluttonous dragon beast with cavernous jaws, devouring everything in sight, much like an unchecked invasive eater, stripping a forest bare. These creatures aren't evil per se. They're displaced, pulled into Alola by the work of the Ether Foundation, a group ostensibly protecting Pokémon but harbouring darker secrets. As you investigate, you learn that Ultra Beasts feed on light and energy from our world, their presence causing ecological chaos, plants withering, skies cracking with unnatural storms. Capturing them becomes a quest, not just for power, but for containment, as if you're an interdimensional guardian restoring order to the tropics. The thrill lies in their alien designs. Circuitry slithers like a living power line, sparking with electricity stolen from Alola's grids, while Kartana slices through air like an origami blade, tiny yet terrifying. Uncovering these beasts layer by layer reveals how Sun and Moon weave science fiction into Pokémon lore, making you question the boundaries of worlds and the cost of curiosity. Of course, no Alolan adventure would be complete without addressing how the region flips the script on progression. Forget the rigid gym badge grind of past generations. Alola introduces island challenges, a series of relaxed trials that emphasize growth over conquest. You start on Melamilo Island under the guidance of Captain Ilima, tackling a normal type trial in a verdant trial site, overgrown with vines and echoing with the calls of wild Pokémon. These aren't sterile arenas, but immersive experiences, solving puzzles, battling grand trials against kahunas, each tied to an island's theme. Akala's fire trial, led by Captain Kiawe, might have you navigating lava flows and rhythmic dances to summon strength, while Ula Ula's ghost trial under Acerola plunges you into haunted ruins, where shadows whisper secrets. It's a slower pace, designed to let you breathe, explore side quests like helping Pokémon in distress or uncovering Tapu Guardians, the legendary protectors of each island, ethereal deer-like beings that bless worthy trainers with sparkling shields. The totem Pokémon in these trials are the stars, enhanced bosses that summon allies and boost their stats, turning each challenge into a puzzle of adaptation. Why the change? Alola's creators wanted a story-driven journey that feels personal, like earning respect from a community rather than climbing a ladder. You bond with your starter, Rowlet, Litten or Poplio, through these trials, watching them grow amid festivals and family moments, until you face the Elite Four in a climactic league of your own making. It's empowering, isn't it? This shift makes Alola feel alive, a place where your path is as winding as the coastal roads, full of surprises that keep you coming back. Delving deeper into regional forms, let's talk about how they extend beyond visuals to gameplay depth. Alolan Marowak, for example, wields a fiery bone club that's as much a cultural artifact as a weapon, its ghost fire typing making it a spectral warrior dancing under the stars. These variants often fill type gaps in the Pokédex, giving you tools like the electric Alolan Raichu, which surfs on psychic waves instead of sparking with thunder. Surfing Raichu, doesn't that sound like the ultimate beach buddy? Z moves build on this by allowing cross-type synergies. Pair a Water Z crystal with a fire type, and you get a steamy hydro vortex that could rival a tsunami. The crystals themselves are treasures, obtained through quests that take you to hidden grottos or ancient ruins, each one humming with the essence of Alola's myths. Remember the time you might spend grinding for that perfect seed ring, compatible only after proving yourself in battle? It's these mechanics that infuse the games with tropical rhythm, syncing your heartbeat to the pulse of the islands. Now the Ultra Beasts demand more exploration because their lore ties into one of Pokémon's most profound themes: otherness and invasion. Celesteela, a massive rocket-like Ultra Beast, latches onto Alola's flora, launching itself skyward like a misguided satellite, its steel-flying body echoing invasive vines that choke native trees. Stakataka, a walking fortress of ancient stones, mimics the island's rock formations but moves with unnatural purpose, stacking itself like a living cairn. The Ether Foundation's president, Lusamine, becomes obsessed with these beings, viewing them as perfect escapes from her fractured life, which leads to a heartbreaking confrontation in ultraspace. You traverse these warped realms, endless deserts, floating oceans, battling beasts that feel truly alien, their cries distorted and echoing. It's suspenseful, pulling you in with the fear of the unknown. What if one escapes and reshapes Alola forever? The inspiration from invasive species adds a real-world edge. Just as mongoose were introduced to Hawaii to control rats, but became pests themselves, Ultra Beasts disrupt the harmony, forcing trainers to act as stewards of the land. The island challenges shine in their variety, each kahuna embodying Alola's spirit. Hala on Melemele teaches fighting's discipline through crab-like dances. Olivia on Akala unearths rock's enduring strength amid digs for fossils. Nanu on Ula Ula reveals Dark's hidden depths in shadowy alleys. And Hapu on Pony tests ground's resilience on rugged cliffs. These trials interweave with the story of the Tapus, who anoint you as the region's first champion after a legendary showdown. No Elite Four wait at the end. Instead, you assemble your own league, inviting the strongest to join. This twist slows the pace beautifully, giving space for character moments, like Kukue, your rival mentor, whose passion for moves mirrors your own growth. You feel the island's warmth in every step, from surfing with Mantine to soaring on the back of a Charizard during post-game rides. As these Alolan tales of adaptation, power bursts, and interdimensional threats settle in your mind, imagine what lies ahead when we turn to regions where dreams of championship take on a whole new intensity. Up next, in Gala's Champion Dreams, you'll discover how one land's folklore and football fever forge legends that rival any island paradise. Get ready for rivalries that hit harder than a Z move. I hope you're as amazed by this as I am. If you want to stay updated on more content like this, make sure to subscribe and join our community of curious minds. Trust me, what's coming next will challenge everything you thought you knew. Gala's Champion Dreams. Have you ever dreamed of stepping into a world where ancient legends clash with modern stadium battles, all set against the rolling hills of a British-inspired landscape? That's the heart of Gala, the region from Pokémon Sword and Shield, where every trainer chases the ultimate title of champion. In Generation 8, released back in 2019, these games took the Pokémon series in a bold new direction, blending heartfelt storytelling with innovative mechanics that felt both fresh and nostalgic. You might remember the thrill of choosing between Sword or Shield at the start, each version hinting at a different path through a land divided by history and heroism. But what really sets Gala apart is how it weaves real-world folklore into its core battles, making you feel like you're part of an epic tale unfolding right before your eyes. Let's dive deeper into what makes Sword and Shield so captivating. The story kicks off in Postwick, a quaint little town that feels like a cozy English village, complete with stone walls and thatched roofs. You're a young trainer named after the player, setting out with your loyal partner Pokémon. Maybe Scorbunny for that fiery energy, or Grookey swinging through the trees like a mischievous sprite. From there, the adventure unfolds across the Galar region, a sprawling land modelled after the United Kingdom, full of contrasts between bustling cities and wild open spaces. The plot revolves around the gym challenge, where aspiring trainers battle their way through 8 gyms, each led by a specialist type and tied to everyday jobs, like the coal miner-inspired fire-type leader or the curry chef with her spicy grass types. It's this grounded approach that makes Galar feel alive. You're not just collecting badges, you're earning respect in a society that reveres Pokémon battles as a cultural cornerstone. But the real game changer in these titles is Dynamax, a mechanic that turns your Pokémon into towering giants for 3 intense turns. Picture this: in the heat of a stadium packed with cheering crowds, your Pikachu suddenly grows to the size of a building, its attacks shaking the ground like thunder. Dynamax isn't just a power-up, it's inspired by British giant folklore, those old tales of colossal beings roaming the countryside, battling monsters or shaping the land itself. Think of the giants from Arthurian legends or the folklore of Stonehenge, where massive figures are said to have lifted those ancient stones into place. Game Freak drew from that to create power spots, special arenas scattered across Galar where Dynamax energy flows from the earth. These spots echo the idea of sacred sites in British myths, places where the veil between the ordinary and the extraordinary thins. When you activate Dynamax, your Pokémon doesn't just get bigger, it gains access to max moves, enhanced versions of their attacks that can change the weather or boost allies. For instance, a max flare from Charizard could summon a blazing sun, turning the battlefield into a scorching arena that favours fire types. It's exhilarating, yet there's this underlying sense of wonder. Why do these giants only appear in certain places? What ancient forces are at play? As you progress, you'll uncover how Dynamax ties into Galar's history, a war long ago that nearly tore the region apart, leaving scars that the energy now heals or exploits. Speaking of that history, the games introduce Gigantamax, an even rarer evolution of Dynamax where certain Pokémon take on unique, massive forms, with special G-Max moves. Your Corviknight might transform into a hulking armoured beast, or your Toxtricity could become a punk rock colossus, blasting sound waves that poison everything in sight. These forms aren't random. They're nods to Galar's industrial past, blending folklore with the grit of factories and railways. Imagine facing off against the champion Leon's Gigantamax Charizard in Winden Stadium, its massive wings blotting out the stadium lights as it unleashes G-Max Wildfire, a blaze that lingers and chips away at your team over time. It's moments like these that make you feel the weight of the champion's dream, the pursuit of becoming unbeatable, not for glory alone, but to inspire the next generation. Leon himself embodies that spirit. He's this larger-than-life figure, undefeated and charismatic, yet approachable, always with a smile and a story. His journey mirrors yours, from a kid with big dreams to the pinnacle of Pokémon mastery. And as you climb the ranks, rivaling trainers like Hop or Marnie add personal stakes. Hop's determination to escape his brother's shadow, Marnie's quiet resolve to lead her team to victory, despite her tough upbringing in Spikemouth. Now shift your focus to the wild area, one of the most revolutionary features in Sword and Shield. This isn't your typical linear path between towns. It's a vast open-world expanse that stretches across central Galar, letting you roam freely like you're exploring the actual British moors and meadows. Inspired by the UK's national parks and countryside trails, the wild area captures that sense of boundless adventure. The wind-swept grasses of the Lake of Outrage, the misty bridges of the Giant's Mirror, or the rugged cliffs of the Isle of Armor in the expansion. You can catch over 100 species here, from common wooloo grazing in herds to rare encounters like the majestic Corvic Knight soaring overhead. Weather changes dynamically, affecting what Pokémon appear. A sudden rain might draw out a school of Tootle, while fog could hide a stealthy Impidimp. It's this openness that makes exploration addictive. You're not funneled along a route, you decide where to go, whether chasing a shimmering Dynamax den or just wandering to level up your team against wild foes. What draws you in deeper is how the wild area feels alive, pulsing with the rhythms of nature. Drawing from British countryside inspirations, Game Freak incorporated elements like rolling green hills reminiscent of the Yorkshire Dales, ancient stone circles that evoke prehistoric sites, and even the occasional train chugging by, nodding to the UK's rail heritage. You can set up camp anywhere, cook curry with your Pokémon to boost their friendship, or trade with other players online right from your spot in the grass. Remember those max raid battles? They pop up in dens scattered throughout, where you team up with NPCs or friends to take down a Dynamax wild Pokémon. The thrill of coordinating attacks, watching your allies' moves sync up, and finally catching that shiny variant, it's pure joy. But there's a subtle lore here too. These dens are portals to other dimensions, leaking Dynamax energy from a darkest day long past. As you traverse the wild area on your bike or Rotom, you'll stumble upon fossils of ancient beasts, trade them at the lab, and revive them into playable partners like Drukazult, these bizarre hybrids that feel like echoes of prehistoric giants from folklore. And let's not forget the expansions, the Isle of Armor and Crown Tundra, which expand Galar's horizons even further. The Isle of Armor is this tropical archipelago off the coast, inspired by the UK's Isle of Man or Scottish Isles, with dojo challenges and a focus on Kubfu's warrior spirit. You train it through trials that test your bond, evolving it into Urshifu under the guidance of Mustard, a retired warrior whose stories feel like bedtime tales from old Britain. Then there's the Crown Tundra, a frozen wasteland up north, drawing from the Scottish Highlands with its icy peaks and hidden legends. Here you delve into Reggie puzzles and noble titles, uncovering Pokémon like the Calyrex, but that's a tale for deeper lore. These DLCs enhance the open world feel, adding new wild areas teeming with Kubfu's evolutions, or legendary birds soaring through blizzards. It's all about that sense of discovery, making Galar feel endless, like you could wander forever under those ever-changing skies. At the core of Galar's charm are its mascot legends, Zacian and Zamazenta, the noble wolves who guard the throne. These aren't just powerful Pokémon, they're symbols of protection and royalty, rooted in British wolf lore and Arthurian guardianship. Zacian, the fairy steel type from Sword, wields a sword in its mouth that transforms it into its crowned sword form, a sleek blue wolf with flowing mane and razor-sharp blade. It's said to have aided the ancient hero of Galar in repelling invaders during the darkest day when eternal darkness threatened to engulf the land. Zamazenta, its shield counterpart in the other version, is a rock steel type that dons a massive rusted shield, evolving into crowned shield modi for unbreakable defense. Together, they slumbered for centuries, awakening only when the region faced peril again. Facts about them reveal their deep ties to Galar's monarchy. The throne room in Hammerlock Castle bears their emblems, and legends whisper that no true king or queen could rule without their blessing. In battles, Zacian's behemoth blade ignores abilities and boosts its speed, while Zamazenta's behemoth bash slams foes with recoil protection. You can catch them late in the game after thwarting the villainous plan of Rose and his Eternatus, but earning their loyalty feels like claiming a piece of history. Imagine riding Zacian across the wild area, its graceful strides cutting through the wind, or standing firm with Zamazenta against a horde. It's that bond that fuels every champion's dream. Galar teaches us that dreams aren't just about winning, they're about the journey, the friends you make, and the legends you uncover along the way. From the roar of Dynamax crowds to the quiet rustle of grass in the wild area, every step builds toward that climactic battle atop the stadium, where you face not just opponents, but your own limits. What secrets do these guardian wolves hide about even greater legends waiting in the shadows? As we wrap up our exploration of Galar's champion dreams, get ready for Chapter 13, Legendary Pokémon Lore, where we'll unravel the mythic threads connecting these wolves to an entire pantheon of ancient guardians. Trust me, the stories there will leave you pondering long into the night. Legendary Pokémon Lore. Did you know that the very first legendary Pokémon introduced in the world of Pokémon wasn't just a powerful creature, but a tragic figure, born from human ambition, gone wrong? Mewtwo, the genetic clone of the ancient Mew, stands as the cornerstone of legendary lore, raising profound questions about ethics and identity that echo through every generation that followed. Let's dive into this tapestry of myths and mysteries, starting right at the beginning. In the original games from Generation 1, Mewtwo emerges not as a natural force but as a product of science twisted by desperation. Scientists, driven by the dream of harnessing ultimate power, cloned Mew, the elusive ancestor of all Pokémon, in a hidden laboratory on Cinnabar Island. But what they created wasn't a benevolent guardian. It was a being seething with rage over its artificial origins. Mewtwo's story forces us to confront the boundaries of creation. Is it right to play God with life? You can almost feel the storm brewing in its psychic storms, the way it questions its own existence in the movies, breaking free from those who sought to control it. This ethical dilemma sets the tone for legendaries as more than just battles waiting to happen. They're symbols of deeper human flaws. As we move through the generations, the lore expands, weaving in elemental guardians that protect the balance of the world. Take Articuno, Zapdos and Moltres from that same first era, the legendary birds of ice, lightning and fire. They're not just rare catches, they're embodiments of nature's fury, said to dwell in the Seafoam Islands, the Power Plant and Victory Road, respectively. Legends whisper that they once clashed in epic aerial battles, their powers shaping the weather patterns of Kanto. Imagine the chill of Articuno's wings, freezing rivers, or Zapdos's thunder shaking the earth. These aren't random events, but reminders of how fragile our world is without their watchful eyes. But the true depth of legendary lore reveals itself when we cross into later generations, where the stories grow cosmic in scale. Generation 2 introduces the legendary beasts, Raikou, Entei and Suicune, revived from the ashes of the burned tower in Johto. Their tale is one of resurrection and wandering guardianship. After a catastrophic fire destroyed the tower where Ho-Oh once perched, these beasts rose from the embers, roaming the lands to purify the pollution left by human expansion. Suicune, with its crystalline mane, cleanses tainted waters, a poignant nod to environmental themes that Pokémon has always subtly woven in. You might wonder, as you drift off to these tales, what it would be like to encounter one streaking across the night sky, a streak of aurora-like energy, healing the scars we leave behind. Generation 3 takes us to the skies and oceans of Hoenn, where Rayquaza reigns supreme as the Sky Guardian. This serpentine dragon coils around the ozone layer, preventing catastrophic clashes between the sea titans Kyogre and Groudon. Picture the primal chaos. Groudon, the land expander, raising continents from the depths, while Kyogre floods the world to reclaim it for the seas. Their endless war would drown or bury everything, if not for Rayquaza's intervention, descending like a meteor to enforce peace. Rayquaza's law isn't just about power, it's about mediation, the delicate thread holding ecosystems together. In the games, awakening these three leads to the ultimate crisis, but it underscores a vital truth. Nature's balance relies on forces beyond our control. And oh, the connections start to shimmer here, don't they? As you listen, you'll notice how these legendaries aren't isolated icons but parts of interconnected pantheons. In Sinnoh from Generation 4, we meet the creation trio. Dialga, the master of time, Palkia, ruler of space, and their shadowy counterpart, Giratina, banished to the distortion world for its destructive tendencies. Together, they form the architects of reality itself. Dialga's roar can warp timelines, sending you hurtling through eras, while Palkia's spatial rifts bend dimensions. But Giratina, it's the anti-creation force, a dragon of antimatter that ensures nothing stagnates eternally. This trio embodies the cycle of birth, existence, and oblivion, a philosophical backbone to the Pokémon universe. What if, you ponder in the quiet moments, our own world has similar unseen forces pulling the strings? These links deepen across regions. Consider the lake guardians of Sinnoh, Uxie, Mesprit, and Azelf, who govern knowledge, emotion, and willpower. They're the subtle threads tying the creation trio's grand design to the human spirit. Without Uxie's wisdom, societies crumble into ignorance. Mesprit's emotions fuel bonds that trainers cherish. Azelf's will drives every battle forward. It's as if the legendaries form a divine family tree, each branch supporting the whole. Even Mewtwo fits in retrospectively. Its cloning echoes the creation themes of Dialga and Palkia, questioning if artificial life disrupts this cosmic order. Venturing to Generation 5's Unova, the Swords of Justice, Terrakion, Virizion and Cobalion stand as protectors of Pokémon from human tyranny. Their legend stems from a war where they fought alongside Keldeo to shield weaker creatures from exploitation. Cobalion's steel resolve, Virizion's graceful strikes, Terrakion's unyielding charge. They embody chivalry in a world of capture and command. Then there's the shadowy Reshiram and Zekrom, embodiments of truth and ideals, once one dragon split by human discord. Their black and white rivalry mirrors ideological divides, with Kyurem as the hollow shell waiting to reunite them. You can't help but feel the weight of these stories, how they reflect our own conflicts, urging harmony amid power struggles. The pantheon expands further in Kalos from Generation 6, with the Life Trio, Xerneas, the Deer of Life, Yveltal, the Bird of Destruction, and Zygarde, the Order Keeper. Xerneas bestows eternal vitality, branches glowing with restorative light, while Yveltal drains it away, folding into a cocoon after cataclysms. Zygarde, often dormant as a tiny serpent, awakens in its complete form to restore ecological balance when 50% of life is lost. Here, the cycle is explicit: creation through Xerneas, destruction via Yveltal, and equilibrium by Zygarde. It's a direct parallel to earlier trios, suggesting a universal mythology where legendaries act as deities in a grand ongoing drama. Imagine the awe of witnessing Yveltal's wings eclipse the sun, only for Zygarde's serpentine coils to mend the fallout. A reminder that endings pave the way for new beginnings. Even the mischievous ones tie in. In Alola from Generation 7, Tapu Koko, Tapu Lele, Tapu Bulu, and Tapu Fini guard the islands as capricious protectors, their shells shielding sacred sites. They're not aloof gods but playful enforcers, zapping trainers who disrespect the land. Their lore connects to the creation myth of the islands, born from the wish of the guardian deity, with Necrozma as the light-devouring outsider threatening it all. Ultra Beasts add interdimensional flair, but the core remains, legendaries as a network of safeguards. Now as we trace these threads, hidden connections emerge that make the Pokédex feel like a living codex of secrets. Arceus, the original one from Sinnoh's myths, is the Alpha, the Pokémon that shaped the universe with its 1,000 arms, birthing Dialga, Palkia, and even Mew as progenitors. But what about the unseen ones? Fan theories abound, adding layers of mystery that keep enthusiasts up at night, or in your case, lulling you into thoughtful dreams. Some speculate a pantheon of anti-legendaries, dark mirrors to the guardians, lurking in uncharted regions. For instance, theories posit a forgotten destroyer rivaling Rayquaza, perhaps a void serpent that pulls stars from the sky, explaining meteor showers in the lore. Others dive into the ethics of Mewtwo's creation, linking to modern legendaries like Type Null from Generation 7, an artificial Pokémon designed to combat Ultra Beasts, evolving into Silvally. Fans argue this forms a shadow pantheon of man-made gods, challenging the natural order Arceus established. What if Mewtwo's rage inspired these experiments, creating a cycle where humans inadvertently summon greater threats? There's even chatter about unseen legends in the distortion world, siblings to Giratina that govern forgotten emotions like regret or euphoria, explaining ghostly encounters in games. These theories extend to the stars. Lunala and Solgaleo from Alola are said to ferry souls across realms, but fans theorize an eclipsed third, a balancer that prevents eternal night or day, tying into Kalus's life-death duo. Or consider the Regigolems across generations, Regirock, Regisay, Registeel, and the later Regieleki and Regidrago. Theories suggest they're automatons built by an ancient civilization under Arceus's guidance, guardians of ruins that hold clues to a pre-creation era. What mysteries do those braille inscriptions whisper? Perhaps a Regi deity, unseen, that assembles them in times of apocalypse. And don't get me started on the phantom legends. Fans dream up for gaps in the Pokédex. In Kanto, beyond the birds, some believe in a shadow avian, a fourth elemental force of wind or void, responsible for the region's perpetual mists. In Hoenn, theories swirl around a deep-sea counterpart to Rayquaza, a leviathan that guards the planet's core magma, preventing Groudon's overreach from cracking the world open. These ideas add an electric thrill, don't they? They transform the Pokédex from a mere catalogue into a puzzle with missing pieces, inviting you to fill in the blanks with your imagination. As we unravel these tales, from Mewtwo's haunting birth to Rayquaza's vigilant coils and the pantheons that bind them, creation's spark in Xerneas, time's relentless march with Dialga, destruction's embrace by Yveltal, you start to see Pokémon's lore as a mirror to our own myths. Gods and monsters, ethics and ecology, all intertwined in a world where every legendary plays a role in the grand symphony. It's this depth that makes drifting off to these stories so captivating, each fact a gentle wave carrying you deeper into rest. But if the raw power of these legends has you pondering their portrayals beyond the games, just wait until we explore how they've leapt into animation and beyond. Up next, in Pokémon, in anime and media, we'll uncover the epic adaptations that brought these myths to life on screen, From heart-wrenching Mewtwo origin stories to sky-shattering Rayquaza battles that redefined storytelling. You won't want to miss how these tales evolved into cultural phenomena that captured hearts worldwide. Pokémon in anime and media. Did you know that the Pokémon anime first aired in Japan on April 3, 1997, kicking off with a single episode that hooked millions and launched one of the longest-running animated series in history? That's right, over 1,200 episodes later, it's still going strong. But what started as a simple tale of a boy and his electric mouse has morphed into a sprawling media empire that touches every corner of pop culture. You might remember those early days, curling up after school to watch Ash Ketchum chase his dream of becoming a Pokémon master. But let's dive deeper into how this show evolved, pulling you along on a journey that's as nostalgic as it is surprising. From the very beginning, the anime was designed to mirror the video games, introducing you to the Kanto region with Ash, a 10-year-old from Pallet Town, setting out with Pikachu after sleeping through his starter Pokémon ceremony. That first episode wasn't just an origin story, it was a blueprint for adventure. Pikachu's reluctance to obey Ash at first, zapping him left and right, created this instant bond that felt real, like you were right there in the grass, dodging sparks. The showrunners at OLM, the studio behind it, wanted to capture the essence of exploration, so they wove in gym battles, rivalries with characters like Gary Oak, and those heart-pounding captures using Pokeballs that made every wild encounter feel electric. But here's what kept viewers like you coming back. The episodic structure, where each week brought a new town, a new challenge, and often a lesson about friendship or perseverance. Ash's unwavering optimism, even after losses, turned him into this everyman hero you could root for episode after episode. As the series progressed into the Orange Islands arc around 1999, you could sense the shift. The animation got smoother, the colours more vibrant, and the stakes felt bigger, with legendary Pokémon like Articuno making appearances. Ash wasn't just collecting badges anymore. He was sailing across seas, teaming up with new companions like Tracy and Misty in ways that expanded the world beyond Kanto. It was like the anime was growing up with its audience, introducing deeper lore from the games, such as the mystical elements of Mewtwo or the ancient Guardians. By the Johto saga, starting in 1999, the formula refined itself further, more focus on character development, with Ash learning humility after tough losses, and Pikachu becoming this silent emotional anchor, his expressions saying more than words ever could. You felt that evolution in every frame, didn't you? The way the show balanced humour, like Team Rocket's endless blunders with Jessie, James and Meowth, against those quiet moments of growth that made you ponder your own journeys. Fast forward to the Hoenn region in 2002, and the anime hit a new gear. With May and Max joining the crew, it introduced coordinators and contests, blending battles with performances that added flair and strategy. This era marked a pivot toward globalization. Dubs in English and other languages polished the storytelling for international fans, making Ash's "I choose you" a universal rallying cry. But the real turning point came with the Sinnoh League in 2006, where Dawn's character arc explored themes of self-doubt and redemption, mirroring how the series itself was adapting to a more mature fan base. The animation by this point had leapt forward. Digital effects brought battles to life with dynamic camera angles and explosive effects that made you lean in closer to the screen. And let's not forget the Unova region in 2010, where Ash faced his first league victory loss in a way that shattered expectations, forcing a narrative reset that felt bold, almost risky. It was as if the creators were saying, "We've outgrown the basics, now let's explore what mastery really means." You see, this evolution wasn't random. It was a deliberate response to the game's expansions. Each new region in the anime synced with Game Boy releases, like Diamond and Pearl, influencing the Diamond and Pearl series, ensuring that fans playing at home could jump seamlessly into the show. But by the Kalos region in 2013, with Serena, Clemont and Bonnie rounding out the group, the storytelling deepened emotionally. Ash's bond with Greninja introduced the concept of syncing, where trainer and Pokémon share strength, a metaphor for true partnership that resonated on a personal level. It made you think about your own connections, how they've evolved over time, just like Ash's unyielding spirit. Then came Alola in 2016, shaking things up with a school-based format, no traditional gyms, and a laid-back vibe that emphasised Z moves and island challenges. This arc humanised Ash more than ever, showing him as a student learning alongside his friends, blending slice-of-life warmth with high-energy battles. And now, here's where it gets truly exciting, the transition to global spin-offs. After 25 years and over 1,000 episodes centred on Ash, the anime boldly stepped into new territory with Pokémon Horizons, the series, in 2023. No more Ash as the protagonist. Instead, you meet Liko, a shy girl from Pallet Town who discovers a mysterious pendant, and Roy, an energetic boy chasing legendary Pokémon. This shift to the Paldea region, inspired by Scarlet and Violet games, feels fresh yet familiar, exploring themes of identity and discovery without relying on the old formula. It's a global evolution, with episodes streaming worldwide on platforms like Netflix, drawing in new generations while honouring the past. Imagine tuning in and realising the world of Pokémon is vast enough for countless stories, not just one boy's quest. Horizons proves the anime's adaptability, incorporating cutting-edge animation like fluid 3D battles and diverse character backstories that reflect today's audience. It's not an end to Ash's legacy. He appears in cameos, but a promise of endless horizons, keeping the spirit alive in ways that surprise even long-time fans like you. Speaking of surprises, let's pull back the curtain on the voices that brought this world to life. Voice acting in Pokémon isn't just dubbing, it's crafting emotions through sound alone. Take Ike Otani, the talent behind Pikachu since day one. She's voiced that little yellow powerhouse for over 2 decades, but what you hear as those adorable Pika Pika cries, they're not random, they're meticulously designed for maximum cuteness. Otani draws from baby talk and animal sounds, varying pitch and rhythm to convey everything from joy to frustration without a single word. In early episodes, she'd experiment in the booth, squeaking high for excitement during battles or softening her tone for tender moments, like when Pikachu comforts Ash after a defeat. Directors guided her to make each cry unique. A quick Pika signals alertness, while a drawn-out Pika builds suspense before a thunderbolt. You can almost feel the intention behind it. Otani once shared in an interview how she channels her own energy to make Pikachu relatable, turning simple sounds into a language that tugs at your heartstrings. It's this craft that made Pikachu more than a pet. He's a co-star whose voice you instinctively understand. Other actors have their own tales that add layers to the magic. Veronica Taylor, the original English voice of Ash, brought that youthful determination to life from 1998 to 2006, infusing lines like, "I won't give up," with raw passion that mirrored a kid's unfiltered drive. She described recording sessions as exhausting yet exhilarating, often doing takes until her voice cracked, just to capture Ash's resilience. Then there's Rachel Lillis, who voiced Misty and Jessie, switching seamlessly between the fiery gym leader's sass and the villain's dramatic flair. Think those over-the-top Team Rocket mottos, that had you laughing every time. In Japan, Rika Matsumoto has been Ash's Japanese voice since the start, aging her performance to match his growth, from boyish enthusiasm to a more seasoned tone in later arcs. These actors don't just read lines, they improvise emotions, like when May's voice actress, Michelle Knotts, added subtle hesitations to show her character's nervousness during contests, making you empathise instantly. And for the movies, voices amp up the drama. Sara Natosheni, taking over Ash's English role in 2006, layered vulnerability into epic confrontations, ensuring the dubs felt as immersive as the original. Now let's talk about those movies, because they take the anime's evolution to cinematic heights, with twists that linger long after the credits. The first film, Pokémon, the first movie in 1998, introduced Mewtwo, a cloned legendary Pokémon engineered in a lab, leading a rebellion against its creators. This wasn't just a battle, it echoed sci-fi classics like Frankenstein or Blade Runner, where Mewtwo questions its existence, demanding, "Why was I created?" in a voice that's hauntingly human. You feel the tragedy as Mewtwo floods an island to assert dominance, mirroring humanity's hubris with technology, a theme that hit harder for adult viewers rewatching it. Ash's sacrifice, turning to stone to stop the chaos, tugs at every emotion, reviving only through the power of Pokémon tears, a payoff that blends whimsy with profundity. The second movie, The Power of One, dives into prophecy with Lugia, the guardian of the seas, where environmental destruction threatens balance. It's a twist on disaster flicks, with Ash chosen as the chosen one to unite the legendary birds. But the real hook is how it humanizes the chaos. Meltan's voice actor adding urgency to the storms, making you hold your breath. Then comes Spell of the Unknown in 2000, where ancient symbols summon Entei, kidnapping Ash's mum in a psychological thriller vibe, exploring loss and illusion in ways the TV show only hinted at. But Mewtwo Returns, the special sequel, flips the script with Mewtwo seeking peace, forming a colony away from humans. A redemptive arc that surprises by subverting the villain trope. Fast forward to later films like Destiny Deoxys in 2004, pitting aliens against Rayquaza in a space opera twist, or The Rise of Darkrai in 2007, where time-warping battles evoke Inception like mind bends. Each movie builds on the anime's lore, introducing twists like Giratina's parallel dimensions in 2008, mirroring multiverse sci-fi, or Arceus' Wrath in 2009, questioning creation myths. You won't believe how Lucario and the Mystery of Mew in 2005 weaves betrayal and legacy, with Ash echoing his father's untold story, hitting nostalgia buttons while advancing the plot. These films aren't side stories, they're bold experiments, like Genesect and The Legend Awakened in 2013, where revived Pokémon rebel against exploitation, drawing from Jurassic Park's ethical dilemmas, and in I Choose You. From 2017, celebrating the 20th anniversary, it reimagines Ash's start with alternate timelines, a meta twist that makes you question canon while delivering emotional punches. What ties it all together is how these elements, evolving narratives, heartfelt voices, and cinematic depths have made Pokémon a media juggernaut. From Ash's endless quest to Lico's budding adventures in Horizons, the anime invites you to grow with it, revealing layers you didn't expect. Voice actors like Otani remind us that even the smallest sounds carry big emotions, while movies like Mewtwo's Saga challenge you to think beyond the battles. It's this blend of heart, innovation, and surprise that keeps the flame alive, episode after episode, film after film. As we wrap up this exploration of Pokemon's animated worlds, you're probably wondering about the tangible treasures that fans chase beyond the screen. Up next, in Chapter 15, trading cards and collectibles will uncover the thrill of building decks and hunting rares, stories that might just make you dust off your old binder and dive back in. Trading cards and collectibles. Did you know that in 1996, a simple deck of cards sparked a global obsession that turned kids into collectors overnight? The Pokémon trading card game, or TCG, burst onto the scene that year in Japan, perfectly timed with the video games that had already captured imaginations. Wizards of the Coast brought it to the West soon after, and suddenly everyone was trading, battling, and dreaming of building the ultimate deck. But what made it so addictive wasn't just the gameplay. It was the thrill of the hunt for those shiny rare cards that felt like buried treasure. Picture yourself as a 10-year-old at the playground, flipping through a friend's binder, eyes widening at the first glimpse of a holographic Charizard. That card wasn't just a piece of cardboard, it was a roaring dragon frozen in iridescent foil, symbolizing power and rarity from the very start. Launched alongside the base set, Charizard's holographic version quickly became the collector's holy grail. Why? Because only a tiny fraction of those early prints featured that eye-catching shine. Most cards were basic, but the holos, they were like celebrities in the Pokémon world, drawing crowds and starting frenzies. You could feel the excitement in the air, kids pooling their allowances, parents bewildered by the sudden demand for card shops. And here's the thing, that Charizard didn't just dominate battles with its devastating attacks, it ignited a passion for collecting that still burns today. Have you ever held one in your hands? The way the light dances off the foil is almost magical, pulling you back to those innocent days of discovery. As the TCG grew, so did the secrets hidden within its packs. Wizards of the Coast released the base set with 102 cards, but the real allure lay in the rarities you might pull after hours of opening boosters. Shadowless cards, for instance, those early prints without the drop shadow on the artwork border, became whispers among serious collectors. They were mistakes in production, unintended gems that made your heart race if you spotted one. But let's dive deeper into the rarities that truly redefine value. Take the Pikachu Illustrator promo card, a card so elusive it's often called the crown jewel of Pokémon collecting. Created in 1998 for a Japanese illustration contest, only 39 copies were ever made, handed out as prizes to young artists. Fast forward to today, and one sold at auction for over $5 million. Can you imagine? A card featuring Pikachu with a crayon in hand, worth more than some houses. It's not just about the artwork, it's the story behind it. The rarity, the history, the what-ifs of who held it. First, collectors scour conventions and online forums, sharing tales of near misses, like the one guy who traded his away for a bike in the 90s, only to regret it decades later. These secrets aren't just facts, they're legends that keep you up at night, wondering what treasures might be tucked away in Grandma's attic. But the TCG didn't stop evolving after that explosive launch. Each new set built on the last, weaving in lore from the games to create an endless tapestry of collecting possibilities. Remember how Pokémon Red and Green kicked things off in 1996? The TCG mirrored that with its base set, introducing the original 151 Pokémon and their evolutions, turning the game's world into something you could hold and strategize with. Then came jungle and fossil expansions, adding exotic creatures and ancient mysteries that tied directly to the evolving anime and games. You could feel the synergy. Pull a holographic Venusaur from a pack, and suddenly you're replaying your Game Boy battles in your mind, deck building to mimic your in-game team. By the time Gold and Silver hit the Game Boy in 1999, the TCG responded with sets like Neo Genesis, introducing baby Pokémon and dark types that added layers of strategy and surprise. Imagine cracking open a booster and finding a shining Typhlosion, its flames seeming to flicker under the light, knowing it synced perfectly with the Johto region's adventures. Wizards kept the momentum with Team Rocket and Gym Heroes, where cards like the Rocket's Mewtwo promo captured the villainous side of the Pokémon universe, making collecting feel like joining a secret society. And the tie-ins didn't end there. As Ruby and Sapphire brought home in 2002, the X series exploded with powerful Pokémon X cards, like the legendary Rayquaza, whose artwork depicted epic sky battles straight from the game's lore. These weren't random additions. They were extensions of the story, encouraging you to collect not just for the game, but to own pieces of the world's mythology. Of course, the evolution brought challenges too. The early 2000s saw a boom, with organised play at leagues and tournaments, where top players clutched their prize cards like trophies. But then came the bans and restrictions, cards like the infamous Lugia from Neo Revelation, whose overpowered attacks shook up the meta, forcing collectors to adapt their binders. Yet, that only deepened the lore. Each set release aligned with game launches, creating waves of hype. Diamond and Pearl in 2006, that meant the Diamond and Pearl TCG era, with super-type Pokémon like Lucario bringing martial arts flair to your deck. You could chase the shiny charms, or hunt for full art promos at events, each one a nod to the Sinnoh region's spiritual journeys. As the years rolled on, the TCG mirrored the game's global expansions. Black and White introduced Unova's fresh starters, with sets featuring resilient Pokémon V and full art trainers that made battles feel cinematic. And don't get me started on the Sun and Moon era, syncing with Alola's tropical vibes. Cards like the gorgeous Alolan Vulpix promo, with its icy elegance, captured that region's unique twists on classics. Collectors started specialising. Some focused on holos from Jungle, others on Japanese exclusives like the SM Promo series, where limited-run cards tied into manga releases. The lore grew richer, with alternate arts and secret rares like the stunning Giratina V-Star from Brilliant Stars, evoking the distortion world's eerie dimensions from Platinum. It's this constant evolution that makes collecting endless. You're not just amassing cards, you're piecing together a timeline of Pokémon history, from Kanto's roots to Paldea's open world in Scarlet and Violet. Speaking of modern sets, the Sword and Shield era revolutionized things with VMAX cards, hulking behemoths like the towering Eternatus that echoed the Dynamax mechanics from the games. Pull one, and you're holding a slice of Galar's Stadium spectacles. But rarity secrets persist even now. Error cards like the misprinted Corvic Knight from Darkness Ablaze slip through quality control, becoming instant chase items. Or consider the illustrator's ongoing legacy. Facsimiles and reprints tease collectors, but nothing matches the original's aura. Auctions still make headlines. A pristine base set. Charizard fetched nearly 500,000 recently, proving these cards aren't fading relics. They're appreciating assets. You might wonder, what's your old shoebox collection worth? Stories abound of folks discovering mint condition holos from the 90s, turning nostalgia into windfalls. It's the unpredictability that hooks you, the chance that any pack could hold history. And let's not overlook the community side. Trading events at Pokémon centers or online via apps like Pokémon TCG Live Foster Bonds, where you swap a common for a rare, sharing evolutions of your collections. The sets keep tying back. As Legends Arceus explored Hisui, the celebration set in 2021 honoured 25 years with reprints and new arts, blending old and new lore seamlessly. Crown Zenith capped Sword and Shield with breathtaking illustrations, like the radiant Mew pulling from every region's tapestry. Now with Scarlet and Violet's terrestrial phenomenon, the Temporal Forces set introduces Terra types, cards that shimmer with crystalline energy, mirroring the game's transformative battles. Each release feels like a chapter in an ongoing saga, urging you to expand your lore-filled binder. The depth here is staggering, over 13,000 unique cards across decades, each with stats, flavors, and ties to the Pokémon universe. From the humble 1996 launch to today's digital-physical hybrid play, the TCG has evolved into a collector's paradise. You've got promo cards from movies, like the Celebi from the fourth film, worth thousands for their event-exclusive status, or trophy cards from World Championships, etched with winners' names, immortalizing epic duels. It's this blend of game synergy and hidden gems that keeps the fire alive. Whether you're a casual trader or a vault-hoarding investor, the secrets waiting to be uncovered ensure you'll never stop seeking that next holy grail. As we wrap up this dive into the shimmering world of Pokémon trading cards and collectibles, you can see how they've woven themselves into the fabric of the franchise. But what happens when we look beyond the cards, the games, and the shows to the lasting impact that's shaped generations? Up next in Chapter 16, The Enduring Legacy and Future, we'll explore how Pokémon continues to inspire and where it's headed, revealing surprises that might just keep you listening a little longer. The Enduring Legacy and Future. Did you know that Pokémon has generated over $100 billion in revenue worldwide, turning a simple game concept into one of the most powerful cultural forces of our time? That's the kind of enduring legacy we're diving into now, as we explore how this franchise has woven itself into the fabric of daily life, shaping generations and promising even more wonders ahead. From the moment Pokémon burst onto the scene in 1996 with its Game Boy cartridges, it wasn't just about catching creatures in a digital world. It sparked something bigger, a phenomenon that spilled over into every corner of pop culture. Think about the merchandise empires that followed. Pokémon cards became more than collectibles. They were a currency among kids on playgrounds, trading hands for favors, or just the thrill of the swap. By the early 2000s, the Pokémon trading card game had sold over 20 billion cards globally, creating communities where strategy and storytelling intertwined. You could walk into any toy store and find shelves groaning under the weight of plush Pikachus, action figures of Charizard mid-roar, and backpacks emblazoned with the Pokeball logo. It's not hyperbole to say that Pokémon merchandise has outpaced even some Hollywood blockbusters in sheer volume. Brands like Nintendo partnered with giants such as Hasbro and Bandai, flooding markets with everything from apparel to kitchenware. Remember those Pokémon-themed cereals, or the limited edition sneakers that sold out in minutes? They weren't just products. They were extensions of the adventure, letting fans carry a piece of that world with them wherever they went. But the impact goes deeper than commerce. Pokémon has quietly revolutionized how we think about education, slipping lessons into the fun without anyone noticing. Take the way the games teach perseverance and planning. In Pokémon battles, you don't win by brute force alone. You have to study types, predict moves, and adapt on the fly. Schools in Japan and beyond have latched onto this, incorporating Pokémon into curricula to teach biology and ecology. For instance, programs use the Pokédex as a springboard for discussions on real-world animal adaptations, how a water type like Squirtle might mirror a turtle's shell for protection, or how electric types evoke the bioelectricity in eels. There's even an app called Pokémon Playlab, developed with educators, where kids solve puzzles based on the games to learn math and logic. And let's not forget the global outreach. During the pandemic, Pokémon Go's augmented reality hunts encouraged outdoor activity, prescribed by some therapists to combat isolation. It's fascinating, isn't it? This franchise that started as entertainment has become a tool for growth, fostering skills like teamwork and critical thinking in ways that feel effortless. You might recall your own childhood, puzzling over evolutions or team compositions, unaware that you are honing a mindset for life's bigger challenges. As Pokémon's roots deepened into culture and learning, its branches reached further, influencing art, music, and even social movements. Anime episodes drew millions to television, with themes of friendship echoing in storylines that tackled everything from environmental conservation. Think of the episodes where trainers protect habitats from polluters, to inclusivity, showing diverse characters banding together. The music alone, from the iconic theme song belted out at karaoke nights to orchestral scores in concerts that fill stadiums, has become a soundtrack for nostalgia. Symphonic evolutions of tracks like Route 1 transport listeners back to simpler times, evoking that first step into the tall grass. And in the digital age, fan art explodes across platforms like DeviantArt and TikTok, where creators reimagine regions with cultural twists, blending Pokémon lore with global folklore. It's a testament to how Pokémon invites participation, turning passive viewers into active storytellers. Have you ever sketched your own Pokémon or joined an online league? That creative spark is part of what keeps the legacy alive, a shared tapestry woven by millions. Yet what truly cements Pokémon's place in history is its ability to evolve with the times, adapting to new technologies while staying true to its core. The merchandise boom of the 90s gave way to mobile revolutions, but the heart remained: exploration, collection, and connection. Educational tie-ins have expanded too, with partnerships like the one with the Smithsonian, where Pokémon-inspired exhibits teach about biodiversity. Kids today might not realize they're learning about endangered species through a lens of fictional creatures, but the knowledge sticks. And globally, Pokémon has bridged cultures. Events like the World Championships bring players from over 100 countries together, fostering diplomacy through friendly rivalry. It's more than a game, it's a universal language that says, we're all on this journey together. Now as we look toward the horizon, the future of Pokémon gleams with promise, building on this solid foundation in ways that will captivate you anew. Take the latest chapters in the main series, Pokémon Scarlet and Violet, released in 2022, which shattered expectations by introducing a truly open-world Paldea region. No longer confined to linear paths, you roam freely across vast landscapes, from arid deserts to misty highlands, discovering Pokémon in their natural habitats. It's like stepping into a living, breathing ecosystem where every corner hides a surprise. But the real game changer is the terrestrial phenomenon, a mechanic that adds layers of strategy and spectacle to battles. Imagine a Pokémon suddenly crystallizing, its body shimmering with rainbow hues as it changes type mid-fight, turning a fire type into a flying powerhouse to dodge an attack. This terrestrialization, as it's called, draws from the lore of Paldea's ancient crystals, allowing for dynamic shifts that keep encounters fresh and unpredictable. Players have raved about how it encourages experimentation. You might equip a Tera type to your faithful companion, watching it glow ethereally before unleashing a move that turns the tide. And that's just the beginning. Nintendo and Game Freak have teased expansions that delve deeper into this open-world formula. The Hidden Treasure of Area Zero DLC, for example, unlocks new biomes like the crystalline caverns of Area Zero, where terrestrial energies pulse through the environment. altering Pokémon behaviors in real time. You'll encounter paradox Pokémon, twisted echoes from different eras, like ancient screamtails resembling primordial flying squirrels or futuristic Iron Valiant with robotic grace. These additions not only expand the roster, but weave a narrative about time, evolution, and the mysteries of the Pokémon world. Rumours swirl about crossovers too. Imagine integrating elements from Pokémon Legends, Arceus, with its historical take on catching, into future titles. Or enhanced AR features in apps that let you terrestrialize creatures in your living room via smartphone. The possibilities are endless, especially with Pokémon's push into esports and streaming, where pro battles showcase terrestrial combos that leave audiences breathless. But beyond the mechanics, Scarlet and Violet emphasize themes of choice and growth in an open world. You decide your path, whether to conquer gyms, explore ruins, or befriend rivals who challenge your views. It's a metaphor for life, isn't it? Navigating uncertainty with tools at your disposal, much like how Terrastall offers a second chance in battle. Upcoming projects hint at even broader horizons. Whispers of a Pokémon movie tying into these games, perhaps exploring the origins of Terrastall crystals through epic trainer quests. And with the franchise's 30th anniversary approaching in 2026, expect celebrations that blend nostalgia with innovation. Maybe a massive concert tour or a global fan event where communities co-create content. Game Freak has also nodded towards sustainability, incorporating eco-messages in new regions, educating players on conservation while they adventure. What makes these developments so exciting is how they build on Pokémon's legacy without overshadowing it. The open-world freedom of Scarlet and Violet echoes the exploratory spirit of the originals, but with modern polish that draws in new fans. Terrastall isn't just a gimmick, it's a visual and tactical marvel, with animations that make every battle feel cinematic. Fans have already modded communities around it, sharing strategies for optimal Terra types, turning theory crafting into a social pursuit. And as hardware evolves, think next-gen Switches or cloud gaming, these features will scale, offering seamless multiplayer where you and friends terrestrialize together across continents. As we wrap our thoughts on this incredible journey, consider why Pokémon endures so profoundly. It's not the sales figures or the shiny new mechanics alone. It's the way it nurtures lifelong wonder and friendship. From that first Pokeball toss, it teaches us to see magic in the ordinary, the rustle of leaves hiding a wild encounter, the bond with a partner that grows through trials. You carry those lessons forward, the patience of training a low-level starter to championship glory, the joy of sharing trades with a friend halfway around the world. In a fast-paced life, Pokémon offers a gentle reminder to pause, to explore at your own rhythm, and to cherish connections that span years. Whether you're revisiting old saves or diving into Terrastall's sparkle, it fosters a sense of belonging, a world where everyone has a place on the team. So as you drift towards sleep tonight, let these tales linger like a soft lullaby, inviting you back whenever you need that spark of adventure and camaraderie. Thank you for joining me on this peaceful voyage through Pokémon's timeless world. May your dreams be filled with open paths and faithful companions. If this story resonated with you, there's so much more to explore. Tap the Pokémon playlist to continue the adventure, and save it so you'll always have something soothing to fall asleep to, or choose the recommended video for another deep dive.